Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a big Wednesday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. A lot of puck to get to. Big Jets win last night over the Columbus Blue Jackets to kick off the three-game homestand. And more on the Bombers as both Mike O'Shea and today Kyle Walters spoke heading into the offseason. We will hit some Bomber talk a little later on in some football overall with John Hodge and a little NFL at the end of the show with Thomas Tipple before the Coolbet lines. But we're going to dive in right off the bat to the Jets' win over the Columbus Blue Jackets, a big milestone night for Mark Scheifele, as well as everything else going around the National Hockey League. Dave McCarthy from NHL.com is going to jump on with us. First up, the bottom of the hour, and then we'll be joined by Murat of The Athletic for the latest on the Winnipeg Jets, who now have a couple days off, although a busy night tonight with the Winnipeg Jets Gala in support of the True North Youth Foundation. And then another day of practice tomorrow, and Nikolai Ehlers and the Carolina Hurricanes coming in on Friday night before a resumption of the rivalry with the Minnesota Wild on Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. game at Canada Life Center. Just a quick note on the game against the Canes. We are sold out of our tickets for the WST game of the month, but I did have some people asking tickets. If you go to Ticketmaster, there are a few resale seats in and around our area, the top few rows of section 316, as well as a few pairs and the 317 or 315. So certainly if you're able to get your hands on some other tickets, come and join us. We'll be in and around the hangar bar at the intermission. And listen, I'm really excited for Friday. I think it'll be, of all the returns we've had of players that have left, obviously, the Patrick Laine first return was a special one for a lot of fans. This is going to be right up there for Nikolai Ehlers. Some would argue even more, considering how long that he played with the Winnipeg Jets. So our next game is going to be right after Christmas. Maybe you put this under the tree for the Winnipeg Sports Talk and Jets fan in your family or in your circle. January 9th, the next game. That's the après-ski night. I think they're doing the ski goggle giveaway. So it should be a lot of fun, a Friday night into the new year. But again, we're going to be focusing on last night and looking ahead to these next two big home games. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, do want to thank all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada. Just a quick heads up, we were originally going to be doing our next WST poker night tonight, but we're going to do it next Tuesday, which is another off day for the Winnipeg Jets. So we'll have details as soon as that is up, and may have even some more details on a fun poker promo we're trying to work out with the Coolbet boys heading into the new year. Of course, the Winnipeg Jets, the Rollies Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, a Canadian club, Uptown Alley, the wonderful support we get from Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Clean Line, the official plumbers of the Winnipeg Jets, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug. We will get to a Why Not question of the day. And, of course, fan feedback for the gang over at fansfirst.ca. Welcome to everybody in chat that's with us live on YouTube. Welcome to all you podcast listeners making WST a part of your routine. And welcome to Michael Remis. Remo, what's up?
Feeling good. Big Jets win yesterday, Huss. So definitely excited to be talking about another win. And, hey, look here. The Jets, in their last 4 games, they've won 3 of them. So everything, that we said about the losing streak on that road trip, well, they have a chance to turn around here and get on a bit of a run at home against Carolina, against Minnesota. And you mentioned Ehlers' return. Could this be, you think about the most anticipated returns and tribute videos in Winnipeg Jets 2.0 history. Ehlers up there, Patrick Laine, you mentioned with the triple video tribute, including Pascal Vincent and Jack Roslovic. Evander Kane had a highly anticipated return for different reasons.
Good point. Good point. Actually, that was for sure number one.
The Pierre-Luc Dubois return we were at and didn't go well for the Jets. Wasn't Velarde injured in that game? We were there.
That was a disaster.
With our group. Yeah,
that was the first ever WST game. It started off on a very somber note. But to our credit and the Jets' credit, they extended the lifespan of the WST section, the game of the month, with that game against Calgary in the final game of the season to prevent us going 0 for 4. and then ran the table last year. So hopefully we can get another win coming up on Friday night, which should be a good one. But heck of a start to the homestand last night. I mean, we talked about it yesterday on the program. This was a game. It wasn't the must-win, but it was the can't-lose. I mean, a loss last night to Columbus, who played the night before, went to overtime against Montreal, traveled overnight, got in really late. This was the game that you were expected to win. And I will say this, and I know some people try and take away from the win of the Jets of last night just because of the opponent and the schedule. Listen, whatever. You got to win those games. But it was the way they won it. And I have to say, just before we dive into all the things that were on a real positive note from the Winnipeg side, I got to give Columbus a hell of a lot of credit, man. That is a team that under Dean Evison works really hard. I mean, they had the out. They got the win the night before. If they had come out with a half-ass effort, I don't think anyone would have blinked an eye. I was really impressed with just how they made the Jets work for it. Especially in that first period. I mean, the Jets get an early goal. They're playing very, very well. That game could have gotten out of hand earlier on. I thought they showed some real pushback, especially in the second half of the first period. And then, of course, got that goal where Miles Wood, I didn't realize he had those wheels, just burned Dylan DeMello, who got caught sort of flat-footed, put that one past Eric Comrie, and then all of a sudden it's a 1-1 game. But the Jets were not going to be denied. Mark Scheifele led the way with 3 assists, and in my opinion, the most impactful one was the one early in what was probably their first shift of the second period, where he put that puck, I mean, a pass that very few people can make, right onto the stick of Josh Morrissey, who, just channeled his aggressiveness to get right into the play, into the blue paint, stick on the ice. That goal that put them up 2-1, huge way to start the second period, a second period that has not been positive for the Jets overall in the body of work this year. And they were off to the races since then. But, from my perspective, a game that, 1-12 from the forwards, 1-6 for the defensemen for the most part. Eric Comrie, I thought, had a strong game. I mean, everybody stepped up. And, definitely one of the best all-around 60-minute team performances of the year from the Winnipeg Jets. And that's exactly what you wanted to do in this situation last night, getting ready to move up a weight class for Ehlers and the Canes on Friday night.
Yeah, we talked about the Winnipeg Jets coming in and taking advantage of a Columbus team that had played the night before, and they did just that. Everyone had a good game. Everyone contributed to the win. The ice time distribution as even as you'll see, and they were carried by the top line of Mark Scheifele, setting the franchise record for games played last night, recording 3 assists, all of them pretty nice plays, setting up Connor, Morrissey, and Logan Stanley with the big clapper at the end. And just when you thought Columbus was going to come back and make a game of it, the Jets would score right after. And I thought they got off to a great start in the first period. And just as I said to myself, hey, these guys have done everything pretty well, but they're only up 1-0. Miles Wood, beats DeMello to a loose puck and scores on a breakaway after a weird bounce. An interesting fact about Miles Wood, scored his first career goal flying down the wing at Canada Life Center with the New Jersey Devils back in 2016. So I don't know what it is, Canada Life Center. There he is, another goal for him. But into the second period, Mark Scheifele finds Josh Morrissey, where all he had to do is have his stick on the ice and tap it in. And, that kind of led the Jets. And shout out to the second power play. Neil Pionk, we talked about him. Oh, is he going to be putting up points now that Sandberg's back in lineup? Well, he's had a pretty good last couple of games here since Sandberg's return. So it was a really nice game for the Jets. Eric Comrie, solid all night. Really nothing to nitpick here. Has Adam Lowry got his first career goal? And I said this on the postgame with Kyle Cotton.
Not first career goal.
Sorry,
he's
first
had
career.
More than one goal in his time with the Winnipeg Jets.
His first goal this season. His first career
Give
goal.
Give the guy some credit. He's the damn captain of this hockey team.
Sorry, first career goal of the 2025-26 season. And he had that celebration. Brought me right back to Game 7, going on one knee. Oh, my God. And then he joked after with Sarah that he couldn't go too low because of that hip he just had surgery on. But a lot to like with last night's game. But as you said, moving up a weight class, posted it on social media. You're going to get the odd comment, well, they did it against Columbus. Yeah, every team in the NHL is pretty good Buffalo beat up on Edmonton. You got to take care of business. That's what the good teams do, and the Jets have been able to do that. But again, Friday, a bigger test against Carolina.
Listen, you expected a win, and you got the win last night if you're a Winnipeg Jet fan. But, again, it's the way that the team played. And listen, we just saw the team get way off of their game for a good portion of that trip on the West Coast. And they came back. They had to squeeze out a shootout win against the Calgary Flames, the bottom team in the NHL standings, just to get to 2-4. So I think there really was an expectation that with the day off and the day of practice that this team would get back to being themselves. And I thought they did a great job of that. And you mentioned Adam Lowry. I mean, listen, he was such a beast last night. And, he scored that goal. And I think I tweeted it out afterwards. I'm just stunned that he is playing at the level that he's at so quickly in his return. I mean, this wasn't a guy that got, injured in training camp and had to miss like 2-3 weeks to start the season. He had hip surgery after the playoffs, was off the ice for the majority of the entire summer, was expected to maybe not even be back in the lineup right now. The fact that he's come back and in the last couple weeks, I mean, literally within a couple games, seemingly right back to where they were. And, we've talked a lot about, just how good that line was in the past. I think Alex Iafallo, as I had suggested many times, the Jets probably end up with Lowry, Nino, and Iafallo. I was thinking this last year. Obviously, Appleton was productive, and, they didn't want to change it up. They did well. Appleton left. This was where they were going to get to, and this, to me, is the best version of the Lowry line we've seen in a long time. But it wasn't just that. It was great to see the captain get people off their feet and get the team up to a 1-0 lead, and to get him on the scoreboard for the first time. Nino and Pionk with the assists on that one. But I thought the Jets really took over the game in the second and third period, and it was the usual suspects that were all over it. We mentioned the Mark Scheifele to Josh Morrissey goal, but it was the defense that was really, really impactful last night, Remo. We had goals from 3 defensemen. The Morrissey one that we mentioned, power play blast from Neil Pionk as part of that power play 2 group, which was dominant when they were on the ice with the man advantage last night, I thought. And then, I mean, just to add on the cherry on top, a Stan bomb. How fast was that one? I heard you and Connor talking about it on the post-game tidbit for this morning. 91, 92 miles an hour?
Yeah, it was shout out to listener, Hall of Fame listener, Gregory Liverpool, posting it, the screenshot in the Discord server where we're spending time chatting about the game. If you're not in there, come join us, check it out. It was 91.1 miles an hour. That was just such a massive clapper, putting all 6'7" of Logan Stanley right into that. And man, Stan has what an offensive season he's having for a guy whose career high in goals was 1, is now up to 3 on the season and 9 points in 19 games as a third pair defenseman who doesn't get power play time. It's on pace for a pretty good season. That would be 12 goals. 12 goals. His career high in points was 14 last year in 63 games. So real impressive stuff here from Stan. And shout out to Mark Scheifele for grabbing the puck at the blue line, entering the zone, drawing the defenders, and opening up a lane for Stan to unleash that clapper. Man, you got to love a big clapper. Like, that gets you out of the seat.
Like, he has a nuke when the ability to unleash it is there, and took it and made the most of the opportunity last night. And yeah, listen, it's been a great start to the season for Stanley. He has, I think, really established himself as a regular. The conversations of him being in or out of the lineup, which kind of plagued his term in Winnipeg over the last number of years, certainly seemed to be put aside for the time being. And he played with Luke Schenn last night, and I will admit, I still do wonder about that pairing at times against particular opposition and competition. But Luke Schenn, I thought, had a strong game last night. He got on the score sheet with an assist. He had a couple shots on goal. He had 3 blocked shots. He had 4 hits and played 16-25 last night. So, he did an interview at the intermission with Kevin Sawyer. and said that, he hasn't really been happy with the way that he's played overall this year and had some room to move, but was pretty positive about the way that first period went or second period went. And, obviously I think everyone in that dressing room, and be a fun vibe going into the gala tonight, coming off a win where everyone really had a piece of it. And, the best description of that, Remo, was just how the ice time was distributed. I mean, Tanner Pearson of the forwards had the lowest ice time at 11:37. And I believe Mark Scheifele, or Kyle Connor. I mean, Connor had 17:45, Scheif had 17:41, which is probably a couple minutes lower than they normally do. Now, part of that was maybe they didn't need to double shift those guys in the game, with it being really tight. They had the comfortable lead. Everyone was playing well, so they were able to roll the lines. The other thing that we should get to, though, that was a little different this game was the look of the fourth line with the return of Morgan Barron. And, I mean, that was a topic yesterday about what a difference that he has made, albeit on that fourth line, and might his importance to the team be, involved in a move up at a certain point, if need be. I'll tell you what right now, I mean, if they can run four lines the way they did last night, this team will have success. And even with Cole Koepke, who I thought's had a nice start to the season, out as the 13th forward, that unit, along with Gustav Nyquist, who I thought was really good, and Tanner Pearson, certainly made the most of their ice time. I think earned more trust with the coaches. So, I mean, overall, whether you were talking about the contributions from the guys on the blue line, all four lines going, and Eric Comrie making a bunch of big saves. I mean, this was exactly what this team, I think, expected to do. They went out and executed, sent the fans home happy, and now we'll get ready to build up to Friday night to kick off the weekend with Ehlers and the Canes in town.
Yeah, well said. They, kind of what you thought the Winnipeg Jets were capable of, and they lived up to their expectations. So back practicing today, not a ton of news. Hayden Fleury still not skating, and the line's the same. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I do agree with you that fourth line, bit of an upgrade there with Morgan Barron back. Nice to see him. And Gus Nyquist finding his footing with Tanner Pearson. That's a nice, got the two veteran guys.
He had a great stick last night, I thought. I mean, he created a few turnovers in the neutral zone. Some of the things that, frankly, were problematic for the Jets on the other side on the West Coast trip, I thought in particular, the fourth line did a good job. And, he adds another element of, I think a little bit more offensive juice to that fourth line with, obviously Barron playing the way he is as well. By the way, well done to the organization and all of our friends in the Filipino community. A great turnout and great night with all of the special things with the Filipino Heritage Night. And again, congratulations to Mark Scheifele, who, by playing his 898th game, set a new franchise record for Winnipeg Jets, Thrashers, games played, passing Blake Wheeler, and looks like it'll be 900 for Scheif on Sunday afternoon against the Minnesota Wild. Let's get to the feedback from last night. Listen, Mark Scheifele was the became the franchise scoring leader and franchise games played leader, and continued to add to his scoring numbers with 3 assists. Hear what he had to say about the top line.
Well, I mean, a couple of highlight plays. That pass by Scheif to JMO on the back door is, that's top end, and obviously KC's goal. Those are plays that those guys make, and then obviously I know setting up Stan for that the bomb there, but. When they get time and be able to make plays like that, that's where you really see their skill set come out. And we've been very fortunate to be able to watch it here for the last, for quite a while. People that have been around, watching Scheif be here for a while and KC be here for a while. That, it's fun to watch when they make those plays.
Coach on the top line, Mark Scheifele with the 3 assists. Kyle Connor, Connor with another goal, and thank God he did. Personal thank you to Kyle Connor for hitting that beauty exclusive we had in the Coolbet yesterday, 12-1. thanks to that Kyle Connor goal. And we had Lowry and Morrissey get their points. Man, if we'd put all goals for those guys, that would have been a crazy number. But a very nice one, our best of the year so far. So appreciate Connor finishing that off for us. But it wasn't just Kyle Connor. And we mentioned 3 goals from the defenseman. Here's the head coach on the goals from the back end.
Yeah, no, it was big, especially P to get that first one. On the power play, was they kind of set it up there. It kind of worked its way through faceoffs, and JT winning some draws, and they used the back end net. I like the way that they kind of worked their way into that. But when your D can, add offense from that back end, it makes you that much more dangerous. We talk about depth scoring, and sometimes you just look at the forwards. But I think that Columbus is the highest scoring D in the league right now, and that's a big part of the game. If you can have guys coming from that back end and being dangerous and getting their shots to the net or attacking the net, as both as JMO did on his. Those are big, and it puts pressure on the opposition.
All right, Kyle, Scott O'Neill on the goals from the defense on the Jet side. He did mention Columbus, and I'll just give a little bit more love to the Blue Jackets on that back end. I mean, Zach Werenski, one of the top defensemen in the National Hockey League. We really saw 2 of them in Josh Morrissey and Werenski, who both scored in the game last night and will almost certainly be going head-to-head at some point in the Olympic Games for Canada and the United States. Also, nice to see Denton Matejchuk out there playing well with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I think there was about 150 people or so from Dominion City out there. And I know he was throwing a bunch of pucks to the kids that came in to see their hometown hero play in the National Hockey League. Of course, we mentioned Mark Scheifele, franchise record for games played. Here's Arnie on Scheifele setting that last night.
Obviously, he's a couple of games now away from 900. I know that first and foremost, the franchise record. That's special. That means you've been able to stay healthy. The other side is that he's an elite athlete, and he takes a lot of pride in his body, and so that he can play. Close to 82 games every year, and just the consistency. Obviously, we know all the other stats that have been building with his offense, and I don't think he ever. He's getting the recognition. I think people are really starting to recognize there's a real good hockey player in Winnipeg.
All right, now Mark Scheifele, of course, was the man of the night with the becoming the all-time games played leader. Also did it on the scoreboard. Here's what Mark had to say on the play of his line last night.
Yeah, I thought the first period I thought we played really well. Second period we kind of got away from it a little bit. Obviously, got one, and then the third kind of just tried to have speed, tried to have support. They didn't have a lot of plays through the neutral zone, so was able to turn pucks over and re-attack, and obviously a good shot by KC and a good shot by Stan there.
Mark, Arnie said earlier today that you wanted you guys to take advantage of the schedule with Columbus coming in a bit late this morning. Do you feel you guys did that overall?
Yeah, I think so. The first game after a long road trip, you kind of never know what you're going to get. So you just try to get the energy up and know that they had a tough. That's a really tough back-to-back for those guys. So we knew we just wanted to jump on them early, and it was a good effort.
Sorry, Hess, just repeat that. I had you muted.
Oh, I was just saying, this is Scheifele again, just talking about setting up his BFF, Josh Morrissey, for that big goal that regained the lead early in the second period.
I knew we kind of had a 3-on-2-ish rush, so I was just kind of waiting for, lanes to open up, and, kind of saw Josh starting to go towards the back door, and just kind of saw the positioning of the D-man, so just tried to make a good pass and put it on his tape, and great finish by him.
Mark, knowing Logan Stanley so well, what has it been like for you to see him take that next step this season?
Oh, he's been awesome. Obviously with Samby out to start the year, we needed someone to step up, and he did a fantastic job. And now with Samby back, he has all that confidence. He knows he can, he knows he can play a great game, and I think he's been absolutely fantastic for us all season, and I know he's looking to just keep getting better and better.
Did you expect that monster of a shot from the point tonight from him?
I've seen it. I saw it in warm up a couple times actually. He can rip it when he wants to, and that was a snipe.
You really celebrated that goal. How high of a jump is it to jump up and hug him around the shoulders?
Yeah, he probably felt like I was a little baby in his arms. I was obviously very pumped for him. So that was obviously a big goal and great shot, and just kudos to him.
I'm glad that was mentioned. That celebration was awesome. And I'm not sure if the Jets photographers, I'm sure they were on that. There'll probably be a few beauties from that one, thinking he was like a baby in Logan Stanley's arms. Listen, Dave McCarthy's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. Let me remind you, folks, as we get into the holidays, you're going to be planning to get together with friends and family and obviously looking for great gifts. Don't forget about Uptown Alley as the epicenter of fun and good times throughout the winter at 1301 St. Matthews. If you haven't checked out their beautiful new facility, you really have to do it. They've got 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, laser tag, an incredible arcade, and tons of fun games where you win tickets for great prizes. Not to mention absolutely amazing food options and plenty to sip on as well. They've got great gift card options right now for holidays. Might make a great stocking stuffer. And if you're thinking about getting together in and around the holidays or planning a party, there's no better place to do it where you'll have more fun for kids of all ages than Uptown Alley. You can plan birthday parties for kids, teens, and adults there. And of course, amazing group packages where you simply pick what you're planning on doing, the activities, what you want to be eating, any add-ons, and their events team will help you take care of all of that. You can find out more on planning it at 488-0000. Go to uptownalley.ca, and don't forget about their bowl and play special daily deal in effect from 9 p.m. on each and every night. Hey, if you're planning on a move coming up in the new year, it might be stressing you out. We'll take as much of the stress out as possible with the experts and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, Rolly's Transfer, family-owned and operated for over 60 years. Head on over to Rolly's Transfer and click on Request an Estimate. Make sure you put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they have been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all of your moving needs, make it Rolly's, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more or book yourself in for your next move at Rollies.com. Today, all smiles for Winnipeg Jet fans. We head into the weekend. Of course, speaking of smiles, if your smile needs a little work, head on down to St. Vital Dental Center. Our pal Dr. Terry and his great staff would love to take care of you. As they've been doing for generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in St. Vital for years. Now, they've got a beautiful new facility, 167 St. Anne's, very close to the intersection of St. Mary's and St. Anne's Road. State-of-the-art equipment, convenient free parking right behind the building. And, of course, for patients from 6 months to 99 plus, a full array of dental services from cleanings and checkups all the way to things like dental implants. There's nothing that you'll need in the dental game that they won't be able to take care of, all with a smile on their face, which is going to make yours that much better. Go to stvitaldental.ca to make an appointment and book yourself in today. And hey, just before we bring in Dave, and you'll see Dave's already festive. The festive season is upon us. You're going to be getting ready to entertain, have friends and family over, go to parties, get gifts. That's probably going to mean a trip to your local Manitoba Liquor Mart. So a couple things. Make sure to check out the limited edition Blue Bomber label bottle of Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which is still available in limited quantities. But as you can see on the screen here, the new Cranberry Ginger Ale Canadian Club limited edition is in effect right now, just in time for the holidays. So if you're heading to a party, if you're having people over, you can get those at your local Manitoba Liquor Marts or beer vendors as well in the 473 milliliter cans. You don't need to mix anything. Just crack it, put it on ice, and enjoy. Of course, Bomber fans know all about the great taste of the Canadian Club and ginger ale in cans, just in time for the holidays. The cranberry ginger ale is available. I know Phyllis said she got the last 2 cans yesterday when she was out. So keep your eyes open for it and jump on it. A fantastic product just in time for the holidays. All right, let's get festive with our guy, Dave McCarthy from NHL.com, who joins us. Dave is locked and loaded for the Christmas season already. The tree is up. The little Santa is on the table. And Dave joins us now. Dave, what's going on? It's been a minute. Great to talk to you again.
I'm doing great, buddy. It's always good to be able to join you on the program. How's things out in the Peg these days?
Well, you know what? Things are good. We had an unbelievable week last week hosting the Grey Cup. I think for a lot of people, myself included, little under the weather after maybe a few too many good times. But the weather was absolutely gorgeous. We still don't have any snow on the ground, which is nice. And we got a hockey team that is sort of back playing the way that we're expecting of them after a bit of a hiccup on the road trip last couple of weeks out while the Grey Cup was here to the West Coast. A real nice win last night. And, the Jets are sort of right now where people expect them to be, in a playoff spot in the Central Division. But, man, they're in a tough neighborhood with Colorado and Dallas right now.
Yeah.
But how have you been? I imagine the Leaf beat's been pretty interesting. I said to my buddies, I was out for Game 2 of the World Series, and said the biggest winners in all of this Jays run have been the Leafs because it took the heat off them. But guess what? The Jays are done, and now it's all eyes on Toronto. And that's been it's been a rough road, despite getting a big OT win on an absolutely filthy goal by Willie Stiles last night.
Yeah, that was some sorcery at work there, though he kind of owed Joe Wall one after whatever the hell that was at the beginning of the game, where he swatted it into his own net. It was going into the corner, and he swatted it into his. He even said after the game, I don't know what the heck I was doing. I don't know what that was. So he said, I went and apologized to Joe. I said, sorry. He's like, it's all good. He said, I said, thank you. And then, he's the type of guy that has that type of a skill set where he can change the game on his own. And that was an incredible play. But I think we would be remiss if we did not point out where the play began, which was John Tavares fighting off 3 guys by himself to dig the puck out of the corner to get it to Morgan Riley. And then Willie did his thing. So, you hope, if you're a Leaf fan, that play, not just Nylander, but really more so Tavares, because that was the personification of everything that Craig Berube has been talking about and stressing the importance of. And it comes from a guy like John Tavares. You hope that maybe is a play that galvanizes the group, puts a little wind in their sails and says, okay, now we can get rolling here. Because you're right, for the first 20 games or so this season, they've been extremely underwhelming compared to where they thought they were going to be prior to the season.
I want to dive into the Canadian teams overall, but I'll ask you, have you had a chance to see much of Winnipeg this year? 12-7 right now. Had a nice 9-3 start, kind of stumbled to kick off that West Coast road trip, and then had a really thorough performance last night against the Blue Jackets team that had played the night before. But as you've seen, the Columbus team has no quit in them. Dean Evison is squeezing everything he can out of that club on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I like Columbus. I think they've got some good youth that is developing there. Guys like Kent Johnson, Adam Fantilli, Kirill Marchenko, Dmitry Voronkov. They got a good core of young players. And you're right, they do work quite hard. And for whatever reason, they always have the Leafs numbers. So that'll be interesting as they roll into town on Thursday. Last time the Leafs were down in Columbus, it did not end well. And that's been oftentimes the case when the Leafs have played Columbus. So I was impressed that the Jets handled them as well as they did. The fact that Cole Perfetti is back now helps, having missed a good portion of the beginning of the season. That's kind of like making a trade at this point of the year to lengthen your lineup. I think the Jets are in really, really good position right now. The goaltending continues to be strong. I think it's going to come down to Colorado, Dallas, and Winnipeg in the Central Division, and I don't think I'm really splitting any atoms with that prognostication. I think those are the 3 top teams in the division, maybe in the Western Conference, maybe in the league right now. Quite frankly, that's a really difficult division. So, I think ideally, if you're the Jets, you want to try to get that first seed so that you can avoid either Colorado or Dallas in the first round. Will Colorado come back to earth a little bit? They're not showing any signs of that quite yet, so that might be a challenge. I think it's going to be a difficult first-round matchup if you end up in the 2-3 slot in the Central, but that's for down the road. I think in the meantime, you got to be really impressed with the Jets so far. They look like a serious team, Hustler, a team that is capable of winning something. And it's about continuing to build your game as the season goes on, and I think they've done a pretty good job of that so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there'll be moves before we get to the playoffs, and it's all about getting there first and then seeing what you can do. I mean, we've seen last night, the first time all year, the Jets with their full complement of centers. Mark Scheifele, Jonathan Taves, Adam Lowry, who missed the first month and a half, and then Morgan Barron, who had such a great start to the season and missed the last couple of weeks back in. And we'll get to more of this, as we kind of continue through the season. But I think the thought is that, with the addition of Taves and where he can hopefully be by the end of a full season, that this team might be better suited to succeed in the playoffs than they have been before. A lot of that will come down to Connor Hellebuck, of course, and more. But, it has been a nice start, although they are moving up a weight class coming up this weekend to take on the Carolina Hurricanes. Before we talk just about the Canadian teams in general, thoughts on Carolina, who are right now tied with New Jersey at the top of the Met. Obviously, they and everyone else in the Met will benefit by the freak accident to Jack Hughes, which is going to keep him out a couple months. Have you seen much of the Canes so far? And, of course, our old friend Nikolai Ehlers in his new home.
Yeah, no, actually, I track the Carolina Hurricanes very closely. One, I like the people in that organization. So they're an easy team to not cheer for, but track, right? And I think they're a team that's been knocking on that door for quite some time. So, you go out, you add Nick Ehlers. I think that gives them another guy that has the ability to break a game open when he's on the ice. He's got a ton of skill, a ton of talent, and I think Carolina needs that. They needed that when they went out and tried to get Mikko Rantanen. It did not work out. People were not very happy with how that turned out on Mikko's standpoint. So to go out and get Ehlers in the offseason, I thought was a really, really good decision. They've got length in that lineup. Like right now, Taylor Hall is playing on the quote-unquote fourth line, if you will. And there's a guy that can move up the lineup if need be. He can check well. And he's a pretty good, reliable veteran presence. And on the back end, I think the addition of Keandre Miller has helped them bring in another guy that can move the puck really effectively. It insulates a younger guy like Alexander Nishkinen, who I know they really like in Carolina, and they're trying to bring along slowly to put him in positions to succeed. So, could they use a little bit more grit on that team? I think they could. That is one of the areas that I'm always concerned about. But, in a weird way, that's not really the game that they're trying to play. Like, they play a skill game, a finesse game, a relentless forechecking game, but they're not a bunch of bruisers. So sometimes you start to wonder do you go out and try and add a grit or two? And in doing that, does that really change the look of your team, or is it just add a guy or two with some grit and otherwise the rest of the group plays the same way? So I think in Carolina, what they've committed to is a style that they think works for them, and they're going to commit to playing that style and not try to incorporate guys that in theory you'd like what they bring, but doesn't really mesh with the whole group. I think they're leaning heavily on speed, on skill, on relentless work ethic, but they're not overly physical. Will that work in the playoffs? We'll see. It hasn't yet to the extent that they would have liked in Carolina. They win rounds, but they don't go all the way. But you look at that division right now, the Metro Division. They're going to get Jack Hughes back in New Jersey, and so come playoff time, that'll be a different conversation. But New Jersey's not exactly a team that's laden with mutants either. They like to play a more speedy skill type of game. And then after that, there's not really too many teams in that division that scare me all that much. So I think if you're Carolina, you got to look at that and say, like, we've got a pretty good path here to the conference finals potentially. And again, it's just about continuing to build their game. But I do look at them as a contender. One, because of the caliber of team they are. Two, their placement within their division. If they were in the Central, I don't know if I'd like them as much, but they're not. They're in the Metro. And as I said, I think they've got a pretty good path through to the conference final. And once you get there, anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect to the Penguins, who've had a great start to the season, it does sort of seem like it's Carolina, Jersey, and everybody else. And you know, just to your point on, you know, listen, the last number of years, they win 2 rounds and then get smoked in the conference final. It's happened over and over and over again. And, you know, listen, we love Nikolai Ehlers here. Hell of a hockey player, is going to help them win. But they did sort of seem like in the offseason to double down on who they are by adding a player like Ehlers to it. And he had a very slow start. I mean, he's got, I believe, 12 points now on the season. And he'll be fired up for the game right now, coming up on Friday night for sure.
And remember, just to add to that point, they were kicking tires on Mitch Marner at the deadline last year. Another guy that's, you know, they've got a bunch of Mitch Marners, but clearly that's the style that they think is going to work for them. And rather than diversifying that by adding, you know, a guy or two that doesn't really fit, just to say you've got toughness or grit, I think they're doubling down on the style that they work, and they're either going to win or lose doing it their way. And in a way, I kind of respect that.
Now, Dave, I wanted to get to the Canadian teams with you. And normally on Wednesday shows, I'll do our power poll for Chud's Power Sports, where lately we've been doing the top 5 teams in the league. Mm-hmm. But let's change this today and let's tag team this. I'm interested in your perspective. Let's do a Chud's Power Sports power poll for, of course, Chud's up in Gimli, the dealer of the year from Snowman for their 50th anniversary. We'll tell you more about what they've got cooking, but snowmobile season is just around the corner. ChudsPowersports.com for more of that. Let's power rank the 7 Canadian teams right now. And it has not been a good start for the majority of them. I mean, Winnipeg certainly is not at the lofty spot they were last year after they started 15-1. But Dave, the Jets are the only Canadian team with a positive goal differential right now. You got Montreal and Ottawa hanging right around the playoff line. And again, the playoff line is sort of weird right now. I mean, everyone goes to overtime every night. There's no separation from all the teams. I mean, in some ways, the best, I think, distinguisher of who's actually good right now is regulation wins.
Yeah.
Put it this way. Let's start it off at the top. Are the Jets your number 1 team right now of the Canadian teams as they sit right now? They certainly are, based on goal differential and record.
Yeah, without question. I can't think of any argument that anyone can build to suggest otherwise. Can you? Like, who? If it's not Winnipeg, who would it be?
Well, great point.
And if you think it's somebody other than Winnipeg, I either question how much hockey you watch, how much you know about the game, or whether or not you're really being unbiased right now in your opinion.
So when we look at the other teams by record, I mean, the Habs are 10-6-3. Half of their wins are in overtime or a shootout. Mm-hmm. We've got the Ottawa Senators, who are 9-6-4. They're just a point back from Montreal, basically on that 22-point wild card line. The Leafs are the definition of mid right now. I mean, they're 20 games. They got 20 points. That prorates to 82, which probably ends up about 14, 15 points out of the playoffs. And then we go to the West, and after the Jets, in the Pacific, the Oilers are 9-8-4 with a league low 4 regulation wins. The Canucks are a game under 500, 9-10-2 with 20 points. And then Calgary, we can probably solidify Calgary in the 7 hole. They are the worst team right now in the National Hockey League. From 2 to 6 right now.
Yeah.
where are you at with these teams? And at least based on where we are, who are you most optimistic will get it together and be a team we're talking about in April?
Right. See, so I think those are two different questions. If we're building a list on where teams are at right now, today, is that the criteria we're working with on that list?
Yeah. Let's go with the list on that, but with the caveat when we're talking about these teams, they may be 6, but this team should be 3 or 2 by the time we get to the finish line.
Yeah. So Winnipeg is 1. I guess Montreal would be number 2, but they're really banged up right now with some significant injuries. Newhook, Gooley. They do not win games in regulation very often. They're overtime heroes, which is all well and good. But man, the game isn't won in April and May and November with 3 guys on the ice, right? It's won with 5 on the ice. And so that matters. But in spite of any other noteworthy competition, by virtue of their record and where they sit and the division that they're in, I guess I have to put them at 2. I would probably put the Ottawa Senators wildly at 3. The Edmonton Oilers at 4, though by the end of the year they should be at minimum 2, if not 1. But it's time to get it rolling. You lost 5-1 to Buffalo on Monday night. 5-1. And their goaltending still scares the hell out of me. It really does. So I guess they're 4. I'd put the Leafs at 5, Vancouver at 6, and Calgary at 7. But man, outside of Winnipeg, I'm really not all that excited about any Canadian team to this point this year.
No, I'm with you. And I'm glad you mentioned that with the Oilers because this is the 3rd straight year that the Oilers have sucked in October and November. I mean, I think we can actually compare them. They might actually be ahead of where they were the last couple seasons. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 years ago, they were 32nd. We all remember the loss to San Jose and the coaching change and everything that happened afterwards. They now have Zach Hyman back, which I think certainly will help.
Yes.
But on the back end, Evan Bouchard's had a nightmare start to the season defensively. I mean, he'll still help you out on the power play and do some good things offensively.
You know what that says to me, though? You know, like, you're right. But when you talk about a guy and then you say he's been horrendous defensively, he'll help you out on the power play. You know what that is? That's like a 3-4 defenseman at best. Not a number 1 defenseman. Nobody ever says that about Victor Hedman, right? He'll help you out on the power play a little bit. Well, I'm sorry. If you're being paid to be a number 1 defenseman, I need more than you just help me out on the power play a little bit, and you're a nightmare in your own end. And like, I know people overlook that in Edmonton because of how dynamic he can be offensively at times. But man, it scares the hell out of me when you're going into a series and each play, as the series wears on, gets magnified, and you just never know when he's going to turn the puck over at a very, very inopportune time. So that's really concerning to me. It's really concerning me. That's Shane Gostisbehere too, isn't it? Except Evan Bouchard's got a nicer name. He's paid more money. But you got to be someone that I can rely on defensively if we want to be a championship caliber team. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're exactly right. I hear it from my pals in Edmonton every night, and that's why I think the ship is left on Evan Bouchard's opportunity of potentially wearing a Canadian jersey at the Olympic Games. I mean, you just cannot trust him, especially against the level of competition you'll be going up against right now. I'm pretty much with you. I mean, I guess you could make an argument of Edmonton and Ottawa, but listen, Edmonton just hasn't shown it right now. They're incredibly fortunate to be where they are. I mean, I don't know if you saw that Philly game last week where they gave up a goal with 20 seconds left, and then which would have been the winner for Philadelphia, and then all of a sudden it was offside.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they fire it up in overtime. I mean, McDavid had to put the team on his back last week at home against these same Columbus Blue Jackets with 2 in the third period to win an OT. And then, of course, they went into Columbus and got the doors blown off them there as well. Just before we go, Dave, I mean, what part of, I guess, the bigger conversation, and I'd sort of laid off my pounding the table that the NHL needs 3-point games for all games a couple of years ago just because it was sort of falling on deaf ears. I think this is the year that we start talking about that again, because when you look at, like, the East is the perfect example. Going into the action last night, you had 4 points separating the fourth team and the last place team. I mean, the Leafs and Buffalo were tied at the bottom. The Leafs win 1 game, and they're now 2 points out of a wild card spot. There's just, like, I can never remember a season like this where there's simply no separation from so many teams. And it's partly because, as I said, like, literally it seems like half of the games on every night are 3-point games on account of going to overtime and both teams getting guaranteed 1.
Yeah. Like, see, here's where I come down on this, though. You seem upset by that, right? You seem upset by the fact that there's so much parity.
Well, I think it's fake.
I think
it's totally fake parity. I mean, I think the good teams aren't being rewarded for winning the way they are. And I think we've got a lot of bad teams that are just finding ways to get to overtime, winning in shootouts or whatever, that all of a sudden are kind of like in the mix with teams that they have no business being with.
Yeah. So, but what I say to that is, I think we'll know a lot more here in the next 3 weeks as we get toward and past U.S. Thanksgiving. I find this stuff tends to sort itself out to the point where the good teams rise to the fore. And I know something that is really, I'm hearing Murtagh's in my ear here. That's why I'm a little thrown. I don't know why. But anyway, I think what the league really wants to see, there we go. Hit the mute button. I love that. Thanks, buddy. Is that teams stay in the mix early in the year. I think that's a good thing because it's really difficult to sell in a lot of markets where you're 20 games into the year, you're 11 to 12 points out of a playoff spot. You've got 60 games left, and here come buy tickets. It's just a tough sell. So what it does is it allows teams to be in the mix a little longer. Ultimately, it gets sorted out, and you're not going to end up having a good team not make the playoffs that should be a contender because of the fact a lot of games go to overtime. But I do like leagues where for more than the first 3 weeks, there's a lot of teams that feel like they're in the mix and that they have a chance. I think it helps development of young players as well when they feel like they're playing for something a little longer into the year. And I think it does well for the league when marketplaces and fan bases feel as though their team is in the mix. So I get why some people really want to see dramatic separation. I'm just not one of them.
I just want to see the good teams rewarded for what they're doing on the ice. And as I say, you got the speaking notes from Gary.
No,
this
nothing
is
to do with.
I'm joking. I'm busting your balls. No, you're right. You're right, though. Listen,
that's why baseball kills me sometimes because, like, you know, they're the poor Pittsburgh Pirates. It's May 15, and they're 20 games out of a playoff spot, and like that's no fun for anybody.
Well, you know what's no fun? Try not putting a AA team on the diamond, and maybe you'll be a little bit better.
You're
hey,
right
Dave. Always love having you on the show. I love the backgrounds, ready to go for Christmas. The summer ones are my favorite when you've got the glass of wine out in the backyard, but. Grab some eggnog, warm up, and we'll look forward to doing this again with you soon, pal. Have a great one, and thanks for popping on today.
Anytime, buddy. Thanks for having me.
There's Dave McCarthy, NHL.com, joining us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, so we did a little group thing for the Chuds Power Sports Power Poll today of the Canadian teams. We've got Winnipeg, and then it's Montreal, Ottawa, Edmonton, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary. That's what we'll go with the NHL this week. Of course, our friends at Chuds Power Sports are into November, and the adventure is not cooling down. Winter is calling and snowmobile season is almost here. Now is the time to lock in preseason deals on Polaris and Arctic Cat sleds before the flakes fly. And whether you're wrapping up fall rides or gearing up to winter, Chud's Power Sports has your back with unbeatable savings and trusted brands. Not to mention ice fishing season just around the corner. Maybe some of you guys want to let that special someone know what you want for Christmas. Go to chudspowersports.com to check it all out. And don't forget the online parts store, True North Parts. The deals are incredible, and it's also a great spot to look at for amazing deals on clearance gear and accessories for you for fun activities all around the year. Again, the dealership of the year in Manitoba, the Power Sports Superstore, 80 years in the business, serving the community in Gimli, corner of Highway 8 and 231. Check them out online today at chudspowersports.com. Huge thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for everything they do for us and, frankly, the city. I mean, Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, and now coast to coast, but doing so much here, including, being the right front and center of supporting all the amazing Grey Cup festivities that we all just enjoyed last week. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new, waiting for you at Princess Auto. Visit them in store today or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. And yes, while the snowmobilers are excited for the oncoming of the snow and winter, drivers probably not so much. But folks, it is inevitable, and that's why this month at Manitoba Battery, it's time to get ready and be prepared for winter before winter gets you. Of course, free battery testing at both Manitoba Battery locations all month long, where you can pop in. Friendly staff at Manitoba Battery will test your battery and let you know how you're looking for winter. And if you do need a new one, you will get the best price in town, period. Beating the pants off the big box stores in price. And it is not even a competition when it comes to customer service. Manitoba Battery will also deliver batteries citywide inside the perimeter, and have batteries not just for your car and truck to get you through winter, but literally for everything, including those sleds that you're going to want to be getting on the trails. Dover Court Drive, the new location in the South End, the original on Logan Avenue, and ManitobaBattery.com. Manitoba Battery, your local option for all your battery needs, 12 months a year. All right, we're going to have Murat pop in. I don't know, did we lose Murat for a minute? The connection there, Reem?
I'm just troubleshooting with him in another room. I'll bring him in a second. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Well, we'll get Murat in. I want to talk to Murat about the game and obviously Nikolai Ehlers' return. Murat's also got a really interesting piece. And listen, the athletic and the long reads that he puts together are second to none. But we always love talking contracts in the salary cap world. Murat's latest is ranking the Jets' cap efficiency, the best and worst contracts, opportunities, and alarm bells. And it is a long read where they go into combining players' real tangible goals and assists and adding underlying numbers to them into a net rating that has offensive rating, defensive rating, and then we figure out what they're making, and then they get a bit of a grade. So we'll dive into that as well. I think Murat's ready to go. Let's bring him in. And we'll start off with the performance last night. Murat, what's going on? Great background there at the Iceplex. What was the scene like today as the team got back onto the ice after the win and got ready for the big gala tonight?
Yeah, it looks like they're happy about how things went, and it's a matter of feeling back on track for the Winnipeg Jets. It was the healthiest roster that they've iced, the closest thing to complete that you'll find. And in a year where, for me at least, it feels like evaluating this team has been a moving target from day one. We're at least almost arrived at the roster that you can evaluate and say, well, these are your 2025-26 Winnipeg Jets. So it feels good to be here and actually seeing that version of the team practicing out there today.
I really felt like that was a game that the Jets had to have, considering what the road trip was, starting off a big 3-game homestand against a team that had played the night before. But I will give Columbus some credit. I mean, nothing's easy against that team. Dean Evanson's got them working hard, and they have had some pretty impressive wins so far this season. And, have themselves, right there in and around a playoff spot in the East, along with 80% of the other teams. But I digress. There was a lot to get to last night. I mean, obviously, Scheifele with the franchise milestone games played, 3 beautiful assists, 3 goals from the defense, and a fourth line that finally looked as dangerous, I think, as we've seen at any point this season, and ice time that was as even as also in any game. I mean, what were your just takeaways from the nice start to the homestand last night at Canada Life?
Yeah, well, when you see the roster sort of return to the closest thing to the real thing that you've seen all year, you got Morgan Barron back, you got Gus in the roster, you got Cole Perfetti's 5 games in, you got Adam Lowry going. You get a chance to see, well, what is Scott Arniel going to do with this group? And, I was talking to Connor Rabchak between Jets skates here this morning about, well, what's the second line's ice time distribution going to look like? Are they still going to lean on Jonathan Toews as heavily as they've done now that Adam Lowry's up and running? And certainly it looks like they are, because Cole Perfetti's addition to that line and Toews' continued progression has those guys going. Hasn't shown up in the goals yet, but their flow of play has gotten a lot better. It's been just a treat to see Dylan Samberg reunited with Neil Pionk. That's the look, right? That's that rises the defensive numbers to the highest results, pardon me. And then to see that Logan Stanley didn't disappear just because he's a third-pairing defenseman again, which is probably the ideal window where he can really outperform that if he has taken that next step. And then he fires that cannon of a shot off the Scheifele drop pass. I mean, there was a lot of Globetrotter stuff as well. Scheifele to Morrissey, Kyle Connor off the helmet and in. There's some real beautiful moments last night. But just because I'm always thinking about what's the next step, how real is this team, it's those structural elements that I guess I'm drawn to the most.
Well, the next step is moving up a weight class against the Carolina Hurricanes, and our old pal Nikolai Ehlers coming into town on Friday night. I think this is a perfect time to get this team here in Winnipeg. You get off to a good start. You got a day of practice. They'll prepare again tomorrow. And then come Friday night, it'll be probably in a pretty emotional arena. I know it'll be a big welcome back, probably as special as almost any in the history of the Jets 2.0. But a team that is very difficult to play against, very skilled, very fast. This is going to be a heck of a hockey game and a great test for Winnipeg to build off what they were able to do last night.
Absolutely, it will be. And especially because of the way Carolina plays its hockey. They're such a heavy, quick, forechecking team. They take time and space away from those defensemen trying to make their outlet passes. And if you go back to the root, now there's been a few 5-on-5 problems for the Jets so far, previous to last night. But a lot of the issues come with the Jets being hemmed in their own zone. And part of that is a lack of outlet passes and the first pass from the defender that's really not making it to the right spot. You can pick on specific players for dusting the puck off here, there, or the other place. But like one thing is clear, the whole system needs to get faster. And I just think of, when Sebastian Aho and Svechnikov and Ehlers to a certain degree, not as heavy of a forechecker, Seth Jarvis comes barreling down, Stahl comes in, and you have Luke Shen sort of dusting it off or looking for that chip off the glass and out kind of deal. That's Hurricanes hockey, turning what could be a breakout into a chip off the glass. Then they come right back at you and try to keep you hemmed in your own zone. That's the test. Like Winnipeg against a Columbus team that Jeff Svoboda from Columbus told me that they got to their hotel at something like 2 or 3 in the morning after their travel, after playing the previous night. This is going to be a little bit different. The speed and intensity is going to feed Winnipeg exactly the problem that it best needs to solve or most needs to solve. So I think, for me, Friday night is appointment viewing for so many reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a game that a lot of Jet fans are going to want to be in the building for. I know that the that first TV timeout in the first period when Ehlers is welcome back, there should be a big standing ovation. Although it is going to be, it is going to hurt for, I think, some people to see him in person in that other uni. I just want to ask you about something I was just talking about with Dave McCarthy. With the Canes, listen, the Canes the last number of years have been a really good regular season team. They've taken care of business in their division, and then they've got steamrolled in the conference final. The acquisition of Ehlers was really interesting in that it kind of seemed like they doubled down on who they are, despite, many people would say, oh, you got to change so much. How are you going to beat the Florida Panthers in the conference finals? His thoughts on, Ehlers' addition, his fit there in Carolina, and what we'll see from this team on Friday night going up against a Winnipeg team that obviously was a great team like Carolina through the regular season last year.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to people in the Carolina Hurricanes organization, spoke to Eric Tulsky, spoke to Rod Brindamore this summer, just to learn more about their interest in the player. And I think that the sense I got from Carolina was not that they needed to reinvent the wheel. They believe in the hockey that they played. And when they struggle against the Florida Panthers, that's about the Panthers' quality in the playoffs when they were fully healthy and just steamrolling line after line. Well, it turns out a couple rounds before, it was the Carolina Hurricanes doing that to other teams. So I think that the belief there is that they have a model that will lead to success. They have a game plan that will lead to success. And so it's not about changing the way they play. The interesting thing is that Nikolai Ehlers isn't that heavy forechecker. So they believe that he can still be effective by using his speed to take away time and space. Perhaps most of all, though, the thing that they've sort of run into is a struggle to turn all of their scoring chances and all of their zone time and all of their shot attempts into real live goals. And, some progressive players like Seth Jarvis helps with that. There's lots of different things going on there. One thing Nikolai Ehlers does is make passes into places that are high danger scoring chances and use his speed to get away from coverage, break down the structure of teams' defensemen, and then create scoring chances for himself and his teammates as well. That is an element that the Carolina Hurricanes didn't have. So their hope is he's a complement to what they do, not a reinvention of the wheel, and they hope that the rest of their strengths can help put him in his best situations to succeed in.
All right, Murat, I want to get to this. I was so excited that you were on the show today when I got up this morning and saw your latest one drop. There's a lot of great things that you have a unique lane when it comes to covering the Jets. When it comes to putting together pieces like the one you have up, there's nobody close in my opinion. We're trying to rank the Jets' cap efficiency, the worst contracts, opportunities, and alarm bells. It is up right now at The Athletic. Take us to the beginning of this process, putting this together, and first of all, how we get to the value rating on each individual player.
Yeah, happy to. I love stuff like this. And for me, this piece starts by recognizing that Winnipeg's good health, which we're talking about the line combinations and all of that, has a major impact on the team's salary cap picture. And I don't think we talk enough about that. I haven't seen a lot of other people talk about that. When you take just over $2.5 million in terms of Brad Lambert, Nikita Chibrikov, and Parker Ford, and on a healthy Winnipeg Jets team, you're able to assign them directly to the Moose. You've helped Winnipeg's salary cap picture to the tune of being able to add approximately $9.2 million extra dollars in terms of contracts on trade deadline day. If you just take that space and save it up, don't use it from here to deadline day, that's a $9 million contract that the Winnipeg Jets could theoretically add. Because when these other players, Barron, Nyquist, etc., were on injured reserve, that's still counted against the Winnipeg Jets salary cap. So for me, that's a big deal. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about the Jets kind of getting right in terms of their salary cap projections. Now, they should be able to have opportunity to add later this season if they want to. Part two is, well, where should they add? Where are they getting good value from the contracts that they have? When you have Connor Hellebuck at $8.5 million, the fifth highest cap hit amongst NHL goaltenders, and he's a defending Hart Trophy winner, could win his third straight Vezina. He's playing that well. Well, that's cap efficiency. When you have Josh Morrissey, just over $6 million, delivering number one defenseman, not just number one on his team, but probably one of the best couple of defensemen in the NHL so far this season, for that contract, you have tremendous value, and you can go on and on. There's lots of areas where Winnipeg's done really well. You can go on the other side of that coin as well and find situations where no. What Luke Schenn has done so far for the Jets this season doesn't line up with your average $2.75 million player. You can find opportunities for improvement as well. The method is it starts with an analytical model. There's lots you could choose from. You could do wins above replacement. You could do any number of wins above replacement models. What we did at The Athletic was use Dom's net rating, which looks not just at goals and assists, which it does use and does weigh importantly, but also an impact on scoring chances, expected goals, defensive elements in that same regard. Are you helping your team give up fewer expected goals? Are you blocking shots? Are you winning faceoffs? All of those things go into this set, which makes it, for me, a much better look than if we're just saying this guy has 15 points and that guy has 10, he's better. Well, no, what else is happening on the ice? So when you use a model like that, and every player in the league can be measured in this way, and we know what the salary cap maximum is, you can actually, through math, bless math, come up with, well, if he's delivering this kind of performance, what percentage of the cap hit in any given year should this player at this level of performance earn? And that's what we did. We used that. We compared how well they've played so far, what percentage of the cap hit that performance should earn, to the money they're actually making, to say, you know what? The Jets are crushing it with Josh Morrissey, with Morgan Barron, with Adam Lowry, and here's some other areas where maybe they're not crushing it quite as well that they could improve on.
Well, now, again, folks, you're going to have to read all this. There's no way we can parse it all up in, a 20 or 30-minute chat. But focusing on the forwards, I'm just going to say that whether the players are in the blue, which is the surplus, or the red, which is negative value as compared to their contract. Surplus players, Scheifele, Connor, Lowry, Nino, Barron, Perfetti, Nyquist, Nemetsnikov. Negative surplus value, Velarde, Iafallo, Taves, Chibrikov, Pearson, Koepke, Ford, and Lambert. Of those players, what was there a result of a player or two on either side that really stood out to you, surprised you, or was more extreme than what you thought?
I think that, the biggest positive surprise would be Nino Niederreiter, because, over the years he's had enough offensive slumps where he can be a bit of a defense-first player. He can be part of that shutdown line. Okay, he grades out really well in terms of expected goals, grades out really well in terms of defensive impact. But if he goes a substantial stretch without producing any real live offense, that can be a problem, and that can hurt him in analysis like this. Well, he's fifth in point scoring amongst Winnipeg Jets, and you saw the pass he made that helped contribute to Adam Lowry's first goal of the season last night. This guy has been dialed, and he's been productive so far to start the season. So he shows up as a guy that is, I want to say, not surprising that he's a surplus, but the size of it is a really big deal. I think that one was a positive surprise. I'd put Nyquist there too, because he hasn't always been productive, but there have been signs, and that's nice to see in the numbers. Nyquist contributing too. I think the one to talk about in terms of the other side, because Morgan Barron, we've talked about his great start to the season all throughout. Jonathan Taves is fascinating with an analysis like this, because you look at the full season he's had, and he's been outscored, I think it's 13-6, which is awful. His share of expected goals is like 35-36%. That's not good. But, we can use our common sense. I spoke to an NHL executive for my piece before this one, and he said, look, there's been a decided uptick in Taves' performance. Don't bet against Smart. It looks like he's figuring things out. And so Taves, for this evaluation, based on what he's done just in the 19 games so far, does not grade out as good value for the Winnipeg Jets. And yet, I think we can throw our common sense through it and say we're probably getting an improved version of Taves for the next 3 quarters of the season. Now that Cole Perfetti and Vlad Nemestikov are humming on that line, they're controlling flow of play better. Taves himself is improving. The interesting thing is, will he get all the way to the $5.5 million that he'll cost if he plays at least 60 games and the Jets make the playoffs? Or will we be talking about intangibles and saying, well, hey, there's other reasons for value in this contract? Taves is going to be fascinating all season long.
The two forwards that I was really surprised that were on the negative side of things was Gabriel Velarde, who, of course, you see really pretty nice blue marks right at the top of the list for his two line mates, Scheifele and Connor. he's got of regulars, like not including the young guys that only played a few games, the biggest negative surplus. And Alex Iafallo, if I hadn't seen this list and you told me that there's a bunch of players, I would have put a significant wager that Iafallo would have been on the positive side of things. Just a quick thought on how those guys ended up where they did.
Yeah, a lot of Jets are hurt by flow of play, by their impact on expected goals, and by the fact that for most of the season, including the top line, they've been outchanced and outshot, and they haven't controlled the expected goals or scoring chance numbers. The reason why Connor and Scheifele are separate from Velarde in that regard is a couple of things. One, they've simply produced more. They've scored more. They're further ahead in points. And we count points because they matter in this particular evaluation. That's an important consideration. So they're ahead of Velarde in terms of point production. I think he's sitting at, 14 points right now? And the others are well clear of him. So that helps them make up for poor expected goals numbers in a way that he doesn't. The other thing is just by a quirk of line changes and how things have worked out, Velarde's been on for more goals against than Scheifele or Connor have. And I think it's like a few goals worth of swing. So with those real goals against numbers also hurting him in this evaluation, he really just show up as the third man on that line for sure. Iafallo, I'd have to double check, but I think that probably it's a combination of the whole team struggling in those sort of underlying numbers, and then he's not producing quite as much offense as, say, a Nino Niederreiter has. And it might also be, wasn't it him that played with Taves and Nikita Chibrikov when that line was getting buried early? He might still be wearing some of that.
Moving to the blue line, like as if anyone needed another reason to love Josh Morrissey. Josh Morrissey's surplus value in this is about 4 times any other player on the team. He's got a cap hit of 6.25. The market value on Morrissey's performance this year is 17.5, which has in excess of $11 million surplus value. Logan Stanley's positive with an extra $1.5 million. And Morrissey's partner, Dylan DeMello, is just under $4 million. To be honest, that's the one that stunned me the most. And then you've got negative numbers on Pionk, on Sandberg, on Fleury, a really ugly number on Luke Shen. And I mean, I don't know what we can say from the Colin Miller because he's only played a few games. But I'll ask you sort of the same thing. Takeaway on a positive and negative side from the Jet blue line.
Yeah, I think that people in Winnipeg understand that Josh Morrissey is a brilliant defenseman. Sometimes I don't know if we always recognize that he's one of the best few on the planet, right? Like when people talk about Josh Morrissey as a lock to make Team Canada and people hem and haw about that, don't sweat it. Like this is one of the absolute best few defensemen on the planet. The defensive impact has been really positive. His raw expected goals numbers aren't dominant, but when you consider quality of competition that Morrissey and DeMello play against, and how stilted it was, how extra it was when Sandberg was hurt, and the Jets leaned on those guys a little bit extra. And then you look at everybody else's flow of play numbers, and they're far behind what Josh Morrissey has done. And you add that to the fact he's above a point per game. You saw the crisscross with Mark Scheifele and then the lane drive to create that goal last night. This is an offensively brilliant player and a defensive star as well, even if he doesn't always get credit for that. And to see a market value type salary, and admittedly, this is just a quarter of a season, these numbers will fluctuate. That's 3 times what he makes, or almost 3 times what he makes. That's in the line with the Cale Makars and Quinn Hughes and all that of the world. I think that's just a nice moment Jets fans get to have and say, wait a second, ours is as good as the best, and he's been underappreciated for so long. So that's a fun one. I think Dylan DeMello, in terms of flow of play, gets helped by that too, in terms of how tough those minutes have been and how well the pairing has done. Didn't like him on that Miles Wood goal last night, and then I did like him on that shot block when Comrie was down and out. Probably the biggest surprise, though, the real bright spot would be Logan Stanley going into the Fire, playing top 4 minutes, contributing offense, and now that he's on the third pair, he still finds a way to launch that rocket on that drop pass. As long as that continues to happen every once in a while, doesn't have to be nearly as often as it happened so far this year. He's going to provide value on that third pair. So that's the challenge to him, to keep maintaining what's been a great start to the year.
Folks, I really recommend, and this is another reminder as always, if you don't have an athletics subscription, you're really missing out, because this is the sort of stuff that makes for the greatest conversations at the bar top with your buddies, or at the intermission in the concourse about what's happening with what you're watching. And Murat, you nailed this one. I mean, it is fascinating, and people will have their takes on it. I'm sure you'll get lots of feedback on it, but it is really, really interesting. And listen, in today's National Hockey League, in the salary cap world, this is the stuff that really matters. And I think people will really enjoy it. Thanks so much for the time. As always, my friend, enjoy the rest of these two games at home, which should be a real fun weekend. And we'll look forward to talking to you next week as the Jets hit the road again out east.
Thanks, Huss. Pleasure as always.
Appreciate it. At WPG Murat. And again, theathletic.com. The piece is the efficiencies of the Jets salary cap and the best and worst contracts, opportunities, and alarm bells. Highly recommended read from our pal Murat. All right, we're going to be getting to a little bit of Bomber talk coming up. But today, as we mentioned, no changes to the clean line lines from last night's game. I think considering the way everybody played last night, it's going to be the exact same unit as long as everyone's able to go on Friday night against the Carolina Hurricanes. Of course, Clean Line is your local leader in plumbing, heating, and electrical. Now for 40 years in the business, and the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. Big supporters of the Jets. I know Jeremy and the gang, I'm sure, will be taking part in the big Jets gala tonight in support of the True North Youth Foundation. Clean Line has you covered, folks. Doing a ton of commercial business in town. So if you are building places, got new projects going on, they're the people to ask. But for most of you that are not in commercial but worried about your own home, much like Captain Adam Lowry, Clean Line has your back 24/7, 365 with emergency service available at any point and at any time. Check out more on Clean Line services at cleanline.ca, and know that in a jam, and one of those things that you never want to have to deal with, but you have to, Clean Line's there for you. Bringing the heat all winter long. Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, the official plumbing service of your Winnipeg Jets. What a week it was with the Grey Cup here last week. The Boston Pizzas were cranked. How about that scene with the Overdrive boys at BP Polo Park for a couple of shows? They were still talking about it on Monday and Tuesday shows, how much fun they had there. Of course, City Place was nuts. Boston Pizza, though, now we get back to focusing on hockey season. Of course, the National Football League, the place to go for primetime NFL games and all Winnipeg Jet games with pick-a-player contest, your chance to spin the BP prize wheel for great prizes. And, of course, right now they're featuring the Flight Club menu with pizza flights, wing flights, chicken bite flights, and the new fry flights. And you'll have your chance to win BP's grand prize trip to California to see the Jets and Ducks play on the 27th of February, including flights, hotel, and amazing game tickets for the game on Friday, the big Thursday nighter tomorrow, Buffalo and Houston. We'll talk some NFL later on today on the program. Make it Boston Pizza, and if you're staying at home, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. Well, we are getting into the holiday season, folks, and we just saw Dave McCarthy's Christmas tree up, and hard to believe that it's just around the corner. If you want to get a head start on that shopping for all the Jet fans, the Bomber fans in your circle, get down to Royal Sports. Over 50 years, locally owned, the sports superstore in town with the biggest and best selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise, Bomber merchandise, of course, merch from around the National Hockey League, the CFL, the biggest NFL selection in town, Blue Jays in Major League Baseball, NBA, international soccer as well, Team Canada gear. They literally have it all. So you can take care of that list with one trip to Royal Sports. And of course, you know how much people love the great game of hockey. They are the hockey superstore as well, with full equipment, goalie gear, the best stick selection around. everything right down to skate sharpening, stick tape, pucks, you name it. Royal Sports has it and always will, with the experts to help you get the right fit, because they've got hockey players working the hockey section. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Get on down there today and take care of that Christmas list. Shopping local with the best selection and deals in town. All right, we're going to get to the Bombers. Fallout from Mike O'Shea and Kyle Walters' pressers, and of course, an amazing Grey Cup week with John Hodge. Before we do that, though, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's welcome in our pal John Hodge from 3 Down Nation. John, what's going on? Have you recovered from Grey Cup? What an amazing week it was for our city, for football fans. I mean, I think there's a real sense of pride from everyone that I've talked to about the show that Winnipeg, the organizing committee, everybody put on for the league, even if the Bombers weren't in the big game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a great week. I really do. I was out for some of the festivities. You always make an effort, right, to get out to some of the parties and enjoy some of the atmosphere. And honestly, everywhere I went, things were full. I wasn't at the parties on Thursday, and I know there was a little bit of drama about some of the 3-day passes being tied into the concert series for the first time ever. I've already been told by the festival committee for 2026 that they're not going to do that. But regardless, I mean, I was at the Alan Doyle concert on Friday. I didn't know I was an Alan Doyle fan, but it turns out I am. I really enjoyed it.
Right there with you. I was not,
Yeah.
I didn't even know what was happening. I'm like, oh, we're going to go to Touchdown Manitoba. That was an absolute rager. And that was quintessential Grey Cup. It was party music, it was drinking music, and everyone was having an incredible time. And my God, the crowd at that was phenomenal.
Oh, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. My colleague, JC Abbott, was like a kid in a candy store. He said to me, he was like, I love Alan Doyle. He's my favorite singer. And I'm like, and he's younger than me. So I'm like, I thought he was pulling my chain. I'm like, geez, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, seriously. And then he launched into the first song, and sure enough, Cheese knew every single word. So it was like, oh, okay, you're not joking. So evidently Alan Doyle, not just for maybe middle-aged folks and older, there's 20-somethings out there who live and die with Alan Doyle.
Hey,
too.
you're not kidding. I mean, I know you met at our Coolbet event on Saturday. You know, some of the boys that came in. Finn, the young guy that was with them, is from Halifax. And listen, I think Alan Doyle's a Newfie, if I'm not mistaken. But
I think
certainly
so.
from out in the Maritimes. And again, we just went there. I didn't even know that was the event and that was where it was happening. And I mean, he's 24 years old. He was fired up. He's requesting songs. He's doing things. So anyways, it was a real home run. But once again, I know I've said this a few times, but just a huge congratulations to everyone that was involved, from the organizing committee to the volunteers to Bomber fans who, even though for the first time in 6 years their team wasn't playing a game, really embraced the entire thing. Just quick thoughts on the game.
It was a good game. I thought, I thought both teams were a little stiff coming out, and there was that look out, whoa, from Trevor Harris. Should have been a pick six the other way. Kavion Ento dropped it. He told me after the game.
You know what that reminded me of,
excuse.
John? I
Go
couldn't
for it.
help. I had a flashback to Odell Willis in 2011. I mean, like
I forgot about that.
you make that play, and the entire Grey Cup could be different. And
Yes.
there's two things. I mean, that play that didn't happen, you wonder what if. And then obviously, I mean, as Montreal had regained all the momentum, the Riders are leaking oil big time. A fumble that will go down in Grey Cup infamy on the goal line, which would have brought them to within a 2-point convert of tying that game up after being down 17 with like 20 seconds left in the third quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you got to give credit to the Riders after that bad toss from Trevor Harris, not seeing the lurking defender. He was pretty much perfect. He didn't push the ball downfield a ton, but when he did, it was always when his receiver had a good shot at the football, right? He finished the game 23 of 27. I believe that's a new Grey Cup record for completion percentage, over 300 yards, no picks, no turnovers. He also commended his offensive line, saying he probably could have played the game without wearing shoulder pads. That's how little abuse he took from the Montreal Alouettes front, which is a very good front. As for the Owls, I mean, you nailed it, Huss. Like, the second pick from Davis Alexander, I think you forgive. It's just a Hail Mary at the end of the first half. No big deal. But the first one was a throw he should have made. He did not put enough on that ball to a streaking Tyson Philpott. Instead, he gets picked off by Marcus Sales. And that third one was awful, right? He's rolling out. He kind of throws it against his body and into a ton of traffic near that sideline. Tavon Campbell makes the pick. And then, of course, there was the Shea Paterson fumble. And I talked to Shea Paterson post game. He was as despondent as I think I've ever seen a player post game. He was facing his locker. His jersey was off, wearing just like compressions, and he had a towel over his head. And when the media approached him, he kind of turned very, very slowly, glassy-eyed, vacant stare. And to his credit, he answered all of our questions. He did. But he spoke like he was truly in shock. It was very quiet, very slow. And I mean, you feel terrible for the guy. Like this is a player who started 7 games for Saskatchewan, did not get a contract offer to go back to Riderville, comes to Winnipeg, talks about how excited he is to be part of the Zach Collaros team, and he's going to learn so much. Well, then he's cut, I think, third day of camp. Apparently, according to Shea Paterson, Mike O'Shea said something effective. Yeah, you're not a Bomber. I don't know what that means, but an interesting indictment from the Bombers head coach. And then he's eventually has to sit out for a couple months, gets signed in Montreal after the season-ending injury to Caleb Evans. Like, this is a guy who's been through a lot of adversity. Point is, over the last couple of years, and when he has the chance to take a dagger and stab his former team in the heart in the most important game of the year, he fumbles it away. And that's a play that I think absolutely will live on in Grey Cup infamy.
Well, let's move on to the Bombers in the offseason. Of course, Friday afternoon, there were the announcements that Walters and Mike O'Shea were going to be back, and that allowed everyone to exhale and go enjoy the weekend. This week, it was time to hear from the two. Let's start off with the coach. What did you hear from Mike O'Shea? What were your takeaways? And just thoughts on the crazy Grey Cup week that was with the team and their head coach in a bit of a standoff, and Mike O'Shea entertaining the possibility of leaving town and going to the Argos.
Well, I thought Mike was surprisingly forthcoming. Like, Mike is a cagey, intensely private person. And then on the personal side, he talked about, his family, what the Winnipeg community, the Manitoba community, not just the sports world, but outside of that means to them, and how much they've enjoyed it, how long they've been here. He talked about, when asked about his mother, who is certainly in Ontario, I believe still in North Bay, he said, well, she doesn't need help from me. She, apparently as recently as the summer, drove all the way to Winnipeg for a visit by herself. I don't know exactly how long that drive is, but I think it's 20, 25 hours, something like that. So that was all really good. The football side of things, I thought Osh was as opaque as ever. I tried pushing him on why he, I think, is basically the only coach in professional sports who chooses to work on expiring deals. And he made it clear that it's not so that he can have the chance to look around at other jobs, though he also defended the decision to look around at other jobs, including, of course, the Toronto Argonauts head coaching role. Reportedly, the Toronto Sun indicated he would have made more money and had more power with the Argonauts. He instead decided to come back to Winnipeg. And I wish that I had an answer, Huss. I really do. I wrote a whole column about it. I have no idea why Mike O'Shea chose to conduct his business this way. He made it clear he doesn't want to be a general manager, which is fine. But again, I don't know why he chooses to work on expiring contracts. And obviously the relationships in Winnipeg with the players was a big reason to come back. He talked about how much success they've had. I get all that, but he also could have signed a contract extension last offseason And then if the Argonauts came calling and saying, hey, we want to hire Mike O'Shea as our head coach and general manager, they could have interviewed him, right? Just like Ryan Dinwiddie as a head coach got to interview in Ottawa. So I don't know why Mike O'Shea conducts his business the way that he does. He is an enigmatic guy that way. And in a way, I almost feel like it's O'Shea's world. We're all just living in it. I wish that I understood it. I just don't.
Well, I love what you just said, because I'll ask you this. Is it Mike O'Shea's team and Kyle Walters is just living in it? Because many people will say O'Shea has, final say on players and the roster. I mean, there is an element of GM that's baked into his role here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and I don't think that's exclusive to Winnipeg. I talked to a lot of agents, and a lot
Definitely
of them will say
not.
things like, oh, I wanted to get, this guy into this team, but, head coach didn't want him. So the GM didn't execute the deal, right? Like, that happens everywhere. I do believe that Mike has final say on the roster. But then again, I've also been told that Osh kind of, in a way delegates that to his coordinators. Like, for example, earlier this year, Marquise Bridges started a game at corner. I was in Toronto for that game. He got pulled. Trey Vavel went in, and I asked Osh post-game, was that an injury or was that a coaching decision? And basically he said, well, JY has full control. Jordan Younger, team's defensive coordinator, has full control over who's playing out there. I've also been led to believe that Jason Hogan is the one who's picking the starting quarterback each week, the offensive coordinator. So on the one hand, Osh, I think, has a ton of power, but at the same time, he doesn't want to yield that power. Like, he talked about, well, I would never want the absolute power. Now, I don't really understand that quote from him, because when I talk to general managers about what they do, they don't seem to be these, authoritative dictators who just make all the decisions. General managers, like the first word of that title is general, right? Which in other words means there's a lot of responsibilities, and you can feel free to delegate however you want. If someone's better at negotiating contracts, let them negotiate most of the contracts. If somebody's better at scouting, let them do a bunch of the scouting, right? GM can look a million different ways. Ryan Dinwiddie, just when he got hired in Ottawa, for instance, said, well, I was actually doing a fair amount of GM duties in Toronto as the team's head coach. I just wasn't necessarily getting paid for that or necessarily having that title. So regardless, we'll see what happens here, but we got 3 more years of Osh, which means in about 3 years from now, presumably we'll have another chance to ask him about his contract, and I'll try to get more clarity then. I'm at least 0 for 2 at this point, but we'll try again.
So Kyle Walters spoke today, and listen,
Yes.
He has been, 1/3 of the Canadian mafia that has led this team to such great heights over the last little while. He, like everyone, I think, agreed that this was a very disappointing year for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which goes without saying. They wanted to be playing in the game at home on Sunday. He spoke about Zach Caleros, also talked about Brady Oliveira, who sounds like they're very interested in, but there's no sure things as he's going to hit free agency. What were the big takeaways from Walter's availability earlier that Bomber fans will want to know about?
Well, I asked about Taylor Elgersma, of course, quarterback they drafted in round 2 this past year, Heck Crichton Trophy winner, U Sports Athlete of the Year, a guy who looked really good in preseason action with the Green Bay Packers, which was extra impressive, I think, considering he'd never played 4-down football.
No kidding.
Prior to signing an NFL contract, and he beats out Sean Clifford, the team's veteran third stringer, but obviously did not end up making the team, has been a free agent since. He is optimistic that Elgersma will sign if the NFL doesn't pan out. I've since spoken to Elgersma's agent, who echoed those sentiments, saying, yes, Taylor would be very excited to be a member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers once the NFL has petered out, or if, in other words, those opportunities
expire. So is it a this
expire.
season thing? Like, he'll basically go till the end of the NFL regular season and then reevaluate?
Yeah. Well, I think the hope is that, we've seen some teams, Cleveland comes to mind, who are extremely banged up at that spot. And right now, Taylor is theoretically only a phone call away from getting on a practice roster. And if you get on a practice roster, you impress the right person, that might lead to 2 or 3 years worth of game checks, right? Being on an active roster as a 2 or a 3. So I think he's being patient for that reason. He knows that the CFL is always going to be there, right? And he's not even 24 yet. Like, this guy's 23, turning 24 in March. So I think that's the reason why he's not in a rush. But no. For any Bomber fans concerned that Elgersma's never going to sign, or he's not interested in the CFL, or he's unwilling to come to Winnipeg, none of those things are true. He's happy to come to Winnipeg when the timing is right. I think the biggest thing is he just doesn't want to come up to the CFL always wondering, what if I'd waited another month? What if I'd waited another week? What if I'd waited another day? Right? So I think that's the situation. As for the rest of Walter's availability, I mean, I thought there was a lot of contrition. You know, he said, we weren't good enough this year. We didn't give enough support for Zach Collaros. He said that Dylan Mitchell struggled, right? Mitchell arguably being the team's biggest off-season acquisition, didn't pan out. And I thought Walters was transparent in acknowledging that, right? And in a way, he said, you know, it was a challenge when we got here to, you know, bring this team up to a championship level. It's been a challenge keeping the team at a championship level. And now in a way, this is almost a new challenge where we're not at a championship level. Obviously, the team hasn't bottomed out. I don't see this as a rebuilding team that's in trouble. But this is a 10-8 team that just finished fourth place, right? So I think Kyle's looking at it as, okay, how do Osh and myself and Danny McManus, who will be back as the team's assistant GM in 2026, how do we get this team back, right, to that championship level? And I'm curious to see what they do.
It's certainly going to be as interesting an offseason as I think we've had in more than half a decade. I would imagine that free agency, and, you know, I will get you on again in the next couple of weeks in advance of free agency and kind of dive into, you know, real needs for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, some targets, you know, and all of that. The big question, though, I know people in the chat are having is Mike O'Shea's back. What about everybody else? Do you expect Jordan Younger back? I would assume that would be a yes. But specifically, the name that keeps coming up is Jason Hogan. What do you think the chances are that he's back and they continue course forward, or might there be another person in charge of the Bomber offense next year?
Yeah, I mean, I've had at least one source tell me that Hogan is under contract for next year. For the record, I asked Osh immediately after the season, and then again yesterday, which of his assistants, if any, are under contract for next year. He declined to answer both times. So we don't officially know. That being said, I mean, Kyle Walters gave Zach Collaros a huge vote of support today. I essentially asked, look, after a second straight season with only 17 touchdown passes, is Zach Collaros still a $600,000 quarterback, or is he a guy you'll want to look to renegotiate? And Kyle essentially said, well, we are not big on renegotiations, period, but also Zach has earned that contract, and it's up to us to provide him with more support. And I would think support is not only the players on the field, but also the coaching staff. I've also been led to believe that there has been tension between Zach Collaros and Jason Hogan. And I've also been led to believe that Zach gets along famously with quarterbacks coach Jarius Jackson, a guy who he goes back a long ways with. I believe Collaros's first season in the CFL in Toronto was actually Jarius's last season in the CFL with Toronto. So it wouldn't surprise me, Huss, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm speculating here. Brady Oliveira, in his season-ending availability, essentially said one of the reasons he was frustrated this year was he felt he didn't get enough time with Jason Hogan. Brady Oliveira is a guy who wants to be coached hard, who wants to be coached firm, who doesn't want anybody to leave any stones unturned. So if I was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I would look, especially with Osh being such a loyalty guy, is say, look, let's make Jarius Jackson the offensive coordinator, a guy who's got more experience, who knows how to push the ball downfield, who gets along really well with Zach, and let's get Jason Hogan back to the running backs job where he helped Brady Oliveira become a most outstanding player. Like, I was at the media availability in Vancouver immediately after Brady won that award in 2024. And he thanked Jason Hogan by name 3 times in that speech. Like, it's clear that those two have had a ton of success together. I don't think you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If Jason Hogan wasn't a successful offensive coordinator, why not keep him around as a running backs coach, especially if your MOP running back sees him as being a great fit in that role?
John, great stuff. There's that piece on Elgersma. It's up at 3 Down Nation right now, and much more coming out of the availabilities. We'll have to do this again real soon. Thanks so much for joining us today, John, as always.
Thanks for having me, Huss. Anytime.
Beautiful. Big thanks to John. Let me just get this mouse out of my throat here.
I think we're both playing hurt today, Huss.
Yeah, listen, it's the aftermath of the Grey Cups.
Post Grey Cup cold. It's a tradition.
No doubt. Remis, pop in here for a sec if you can. I want to fire out a why not question of the day to the gang. We probably should do something in and around the Bombers. Why not question of the day? I mean, let's get to the importance in fans' minds. How important is it that the Bombers bring Brady Oliveira back next season? Let us know in the chat. You have to think, Reem, that with Brady mentioning that he is going to free agency, that's going to be some nervous times for Blue Bomber fans.
And you do this the last couple of years here with the CFL, with the guys on short-term deals and players moving around. I remember last time we were saying, oh, is it going to be Brady or is it going to be Dalton Schoen? And they ended up keeping both of them. Well, Dalton Schoen, he's been injured, and Brady's been a huge part of the offense, but you do wonder if he's, with his comments at the end of the season, he's unhappy about the way things went down. And would the Bombers look to make a change and, anoint Jarius Jackson as OC and bump Jason Hogan down back to the running back coach? They did that before with Richie Hall and putting Jordan Younger in as the defensive coordinator. And look, Brady Oliveira, I think if you look at off field, I think he's pretty valuable here in Winnipeg. A Winnipeg guy playing for the Blue Bombers. He's involved with a number of causes in the community as well. Would that be the same as in another city? If you went to, Toronto and took a contract from them. Well, it did work out for Andrew Harris. He went to Toronto and got a Grey Cup. I'm just imagining that happening with another Winnipeg-born Blue Bombers running back. But Brady Oliveira, very important to the Blue Bombers' success. I thought at times this year, Huss, they could have given him the ball a bit more, either on carries. Mike O'Shea mentioned him as a receiver. I was stunned that he did not see the ball more receiving in some of those games where they had all these receivers out. So I'm curious how the Bombers receiver room is going to look like. You just saw Saskatchewan win the Grey Cup with an absolutely stacked group of receivers. Keyshawn Johnson, their top guy, did not even play in the Grey Cup, and they didn't miss a beat with Samuel Ellis in there. And Joe, it was like their fourth or fifth guy who just came back from the NFL. So I think a lot of questions has about the Bombers' offense, as it was really, really inconsistent throughout the season.
Yeah, listen, it wasn't good enough. They managed. Good teams find ways to win. Based on the way they played, that 10-8 record was literally the best it probably could have possibly been. You had the two Miracle Trey Vavel games and what more. We'll get your feedback on that coming up in fan feedback in just a couple of minutes. But let's talk a little NFL and welcome in our pal Thomas Tipple from FantasyPoints.com. They pushed the playoffs for fantasy football, and the National Football League is on right now. And, of course, you got to check out Fantasy Points. The Fantasy Points data suite is the best research tool in the world. You can always use your code WST to sign up and dominate your league. Thomas, what's going on? How are you?
To be back. I see the Grey Cup has come and gone, so
did you take in any of it, or were you in the lab the entire time cooking up things for Fantasy Points?
There's no such thing as free time in the NFL season, so unfortunately I'm in the lab all the time. The only time I do spend outside of the football lab, I'm spent playing Tarkov, and it is the only other thing I can do because I hate my life. For anyone that knows that game, you know that it is dreadfully painful on yourself. But no, in the lab, no Grey Cup. Winnipeg wasn't in it, so no need for the city pride. And then obviously my Argo's not in it, so
it was a great party. I will say that. It was a hell of a good time, and I think it looked great on the city as well. And I was joking to, not even joking. Originally, I was so choked, and I love that the CFL has put the playoff games on Saturdays before. Listen, football fans love football. I love the CFL. I love the NFL. I don't want to have to decide. I can handle it one day a year. But when I saw the big Chiefs-Bronco game was on Sunday, I'm like, my God, of all the weeks for me to have to miss that game, I was thankful that I missed the second half of that game, obviously, with the result. It's kind of crazy, man. Your Ravens, my Chiefs right now, both at 5-5. outside of the playoff line. A lot of people are declaring the Chiefs dead. I think that is foolish and very premature, but even I will admit that they need to get their act together big time. I never thought I'd ever say the words Bo Nix outplayed Patrick Mahomes come out of my mouth, but that happened on Sunday. A bit of a different story with the Ravens, though, right now, doing exactly what we said they had to do, and they have done. They're basically playing playoff football every week. They've scratched back from 1-5 to 5-5, and now a pretty significant favorite despite being behind Pittsburgh to make the playoffs. Just thoughts on both of these teams and their likelihood of being in the playoffs, and if they get to the playoffs, how dangerous they could be for a group of very unproven teams with very soft schedules leading divisions right now in the AFC.
Yeah, the football doesn't become real to me until the end of December and into January. It's really when crunch time hits. I mean, the only problem with Kansas City is their path to the playoffs is difficult. They're going to need to be a wild card team. I do not see them catching Denver.
No, it's over.
They're not going to have the division, which is going to be tough for them, fighting against teams like Pittsburgh, like Baltimore, who kind of have a head start, but they do have the tiebreaker. So tiebreakers are definitely going to matter, and that's where Baltimore has a disadvantage. I don't worry about the Kansas City Chiefs at any time ever. These things, just division games are weird. Look at Miami and Buffalo. For no reason, Miami just decided to run all over Buffalo and they win a division game. It's not that far different than the Cleveland Browns-Ravens game from this last weekend. I'd say it all the time. Division games are ugly. They're gross. They're hard to watch. They're unpredictable. Even when the Browns were a winless team for that season, they still played Baltimore tough. It is the most frustrating thing possible. So again, more of a fantasy guy than an NFL outlook guy, but not counting anyone down and out. Anything can it's the fake you out league. League is weird. That's why I dive into the data as much as I can. They're good teams, but like I said, look at Pittsburgh. They have a 1-game advantage over Baltimore. That means Baltimore has to win 2 division games at the end of the year to make the playoffs. That is just a recipe for disaster. If you're trying to make the playoffs, you want to avoid those division games.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, once you get to 1-5, you'll take that opportunity because a lot of teams get to 1-5, and it is curtains for that. Just before we look ahead, I want to pick your brain on maybe some props to look at for the upcoming week. We did have what could have been the game of the year between the Rams and the Seahawks. And, I'd said correctly last week, Dre Make was the MVP favorite going into this weekend. But I'd said that, with Sam Darnold and Matt Stafford with where they are, whoever wins that game is going to get such a massive boost. They'll likely be the favorite. And that's exactly what happened with Matt Stafford. Sam Darnold, Darts had 4 picks in that game. And yet they were still right there at the end, losing only by 2. Whether it be from a fantasy perspective, but also the landscape of the NFC, how did you see that one? What do you take away from the Rams in a win, but also the Seahawks in a loss?
Well, it's the defense for the Seahawks. It's a real defense. I can't believe Baltimore let Mr. McDonald walk out the door instead of handing him the keys to the kingdom, but look, Seattle is just what it is. Sam Darnold needs to be put in a position to succeed. They need to stay ahead of the sticks. They need to stay away from long down and distance, and that's where he really struggles. But where they excel is when they do start to get ahead. Things that I want to note from that game in Seattle was Ken Walker scoring from the 1-yard line. That's something that's been reserved for Zach Charbonnet. Unfortunately for everyone at FantasyPoints.com, we are all Ken Walker stands. I'm interested to see if Rashid Shaheed gets going in this, and that AJ Barner, who's hit double-digit fantasy points 6 times in 10 games, has kind of taken the lead at tight end for that team. The thing with the Seahawks is they're a big play team. When those big plays are not available to them, very hard for them to sustain success over time. What you saw from Darnold is part of the reason why the Vikings let him go. It's a crunch time scenario versus a tough defense. And he, like you mentioned, threw some pretty egregious interceptions. It's also starting to be clear that they need more than just Jackson Smith and Jigba in the offense. So a little bit worried for that. A little bit worried about Puka Nacua if you want to look at the Rams side, since it's a copycat league. So since the switch over to 13 personnel, which is more offensive linemen in to help with the run, putting them in motion, that's why you're seeing the big men in motion on a lot of these play action and blocking plays. It's kind of limiting our guy Puka Nacua a little bit. Interesting to see if that trend continues, but overall, it does kind of feel like McVay is trying to get Matthew Stafford that elusive MVP, the thing that he probably needs to really secure his Hall of Fame status. So we'll see. I'm interested for both of these teams, both for fantasy and not, but for defensive matchups, I'm watching out.
Hey, just on JSN for a minute. I was watching the game last night. I was on X and picked up your broadcast of the Dynasty Points pod, and I was checking in, and you guys were doing tiers of receivers and talking about Rashee Rice and whatnot. But JSN, with his emergence this year, if you're doing, let's just say you nuked a league or you're starting a brand new league right now and you've got the pick, you need to pick a receiver, and you can literally pick any receiver in the NFL moving forward, dynasty. Is JSN the number one pick at receiver?
No, I have him at 3 currently. So it's still Jamar Chase. He's just the most unreal receiver in the league. He is a bit of a dummy. But he is unbelievable on the field no matter what. Number 2, I have Malik Neighbors. Just age, he's unbelievable. Even playing with a bunch of bums, he showed that he was just one of the best players in the league. So I'm still going to go with him at 2, especially now that we know that he has a quarterback that can process well and can prop up fantasy wide receivers. That's a big concern was a big concern for people in New York, but we've talked about Jackson Dart extensively. He's unreal. And then I have JSN sitting there at 3 and then Puka at 4. So those are my top 4 for Dynasty. You can catch that episode over at the Fantasy Points YouTube page. We did an entire tier show where the 4 of us tried to somewhat agree to where to place these receivers in their appropriate tiers. It was
easier said than done, but it was
2
entertaining.
Hours. It was 2 hours of just of unhinged Dynasty fantasy football content.
Hey, listen, before we go, help me out and help the people out heading into the weekend. Let's dive into the Fantasy Points prop shop.
Got you.
Leaning on anything for this weekend that you might want to consider throwing a nickel down on?
Oh, absolutely. I got 3 for you right here. And here's a little bit as to why I think people should be locked into the Fantasy Points betting content. Let me hit you with this. Look, the Fantasy Points premium subscription is where it's at. It includes all of our betting and DFS and content, and we are on a major heater. We started giving out recommended anytime touchdown bets in our Discord. In week 6, we are up 30 units in just over the last 6 weeks. To put that into perspective, a $100 better is up $2,960 US just since week 6. You want an even larger sample size? Our legendary IDP guru, Justin Varnes, is up 103 units. I mentioned him the last time I was here. 65% hit rate over the last 3 years. This is not a flash in the pan. You can cop a Fantasy Points premium subscription for $87.50. That's not per week. That's for the rest of the year through March. Less than $90 US gets you all of our betting and DFS content. And for that, I have 3 bets here that I am pulling. It might give me a little bit of trouble for this, but I'm pulling this from our official bets Discord channel, where we provide you not just with the bets, but the links to where you can place these bets. And again, you can get that with a premium subscription. I'm going Chris Olave from New Orleans over 59.5 receiving yards. That's minus 114 over on FanDuel. Our projections are 72.2 yards. He has 63 plus yards in 4 of his last 5 games. Atlanta deploys the highest rate of cover 3, 48.7%. He averages 2.87 yards per route run, a 0.31 targets per route run on 199 routes. That's pretty damn good. I'm trusting our projections. The Falcons have given up the 2nd most yards per route run and 5th most receiving yards to receivers aligned outside and in the slot over the last 4 weeks. Bet to 63.5 yards. Check those lines now. You know, it's Baltimore time, so it's Yeti season here for Derrick Henry. I'm going Baltimore over 79.5 rushing yards for Derrick Henry, minus 114 on FanDuel. 94.1 yards is our projection. We don't have to say too much. We know when it gets colder, Derrick Henry really lights it up. The Jets are giving up the 11th most rushing yards per game and 6th most carries per game. 2 running backs. Baltimore enters the week as a 13.5 home favorites. Hard to imagine Derrick Henry not hitting. We're betting it to 85.5 yards and a little bit of a lower one. If you're just dipping your toes in, Jaden Higgins, rookie wide receiver from Houston, 26.5 receiving yards, minus 118 on BetMGM. Fantasy points projection, 31.1 yards. Little tighter, 28 yards in 6 of 20 games, 4+ reception for 42+ yards, 7 targets in Mills' first 2 starts. Please don't let CJ Stroud back in the offense. I'm finally enjoying some fantasy production from the Houston Texans. Buffalo gives up the 6th most yards per route run and the 11th most yards per target to receivers lined out wide, where Jaden Higgins finds his home. 6-point home underdogs, and Mills attempting 41+ passes in his first 2 starts. I'm betting this to 29.5 yards. All of this data, well, you can get it at the Fantasy Points Data Suite. You too can be a data guru and a betting savant with an unreal discount for your FantasyPoints.com subscriptions. If you have questions, you can find me at ElNostratomas, ElNostraThomas. Look, I can spell today. Do so, holler at me, and get paid.
Yeah, love the Higgins pick. And I can tell you, gang, as someone that has been betting for a long time and really focuses in with the boys on WST winners on Friday morning, on spread picks and upsets and touchdown scores. This has just opened up a whole new way of kind of justifying, getting feels for the props that we like to pick, and it's been phenomenal this year.
And an unsung part of this too is when you get access into our Discord. I know I talk about this a lot, but you're not just getting your standard Discord stuff, people just chatting about bets. We have multiple $1 million winners in our Discord that hang out and talk to each other. We have had multiple 25K winners, 50K winners plus on DFS tournaments. We have our analysts, guys like Scott Barrett, who've been in this business, literally created stats used in fantasy football today, as well as some other big time analysts for us here that you can interact with daily in our Discord, and only with that premium subscription. It is more than worth it. I know I'm a corporate shill. I would not be touting something I don't believe in. So please check it out. If you have any questions, you can definitely find me.
We need to get a Fantasy Points hockey Discord and get the Guru Remis pop in at some point. He's been killing it this year, as he often does. So
yes,
that'll be nice. Hey, we kick it off with a good one tomorrow night. Buffalo and Houston for the Thursday nighter. Should be a good one. Right. Thomas, as always, thanks so much. Keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you next week as we get ready. We'll do something fun tomorrow night. Maybe we'll cook up a little 3 props or 3 game. We'll do something special on Wednesday for Thanksgiving Thursday in the NFL next week with some big games. Have a good one, pal. Thanks again, as always.
Thanks for having me. Take care, everybody.
All right, there he is, at ElNostratomas on all the platforms. And check it out. I mean, tweet it out. I took in some of the their pod is fun, the Dynasty Points. And again, it's more fantasy football related, more dynasty, long-term leagues. But still, I mean, so much of the information, even if you're just in a redraft league, helpful as you get to the trade deadline. All right, let's get over to fan feedback, brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. We asked you your thoughts on Brady Oliveira's pending free agency and dipping his toe into the free agent waters. Let's see what people had to say. Yes, man, Huss needs a hot toddy indeed. Shout out to Remis for giving me a second there to get it together here. Derek Schmidt, we are effed without Brady. Vincent Toba, Brady, a mandatory return. Mary Jane, it's a must to get Brady back. T Winnipeg 204, gotta re-sign Brady or we are cooked. Turd Ferguson, losing Brady would be a bad look on the Bombers And Brady is a must re-sign. That would probably be about as unanimous a poll as we've had, or a question we've had in a long time. But I certainly do get it. He, in a lot of ways, has been the heartbeat of this offense. And Remo, what's interesting is that, Brady is 0 for 3 in the Grey Cup as a starter. I mean, he was injured when, they won that one where he was on the squad. And I think that's something that really eats away at him. And, if he does go, whoever it was that said it'll be a tough look on the Bombers, I agree. His marketability is bigger here than it will be anywhere else. And I would assume that the Bombers are willing to pay Brady. So if he goes elsewhere, it might be because he thinks he's got a better chance to win, and that's not something that we really thought was a possibility in Winnipeg over the last couple years. As always, we're taking your fan feedback throughout the show, in the chat, and as always on all our social platforms. Fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay. No added fees. If you want to join us for the game tomorrow, with our section being sold out, get on over to fansfirst.ca. Look in section 316 in the upper rows, or either 315, 317, and make sure to join us in the hangar bar, and should have a great crew tomorrow night ready for it. Fans First, again, as always, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, let's get Remo back in here just before we hit the Coolbet lines. Good stuff with Thomas today, and man, next week, American Thanksgiving, the Thursday night. Going to be a heck of a lot of fun. Jets are off that day. And as we get ready for our Coolbet lines, the Jets are playing Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday on the road. We got the big slate of NFL games on Thursday. So it's not going to be tonight. The next poker tourney for WST is going to be next Tuesday. I think a perfect night. Jets will be off for a couple days. Slow weekday night. People can line up, take another shot at Hammer, try and get the bounty on him, myself, and Remis, and do it up again. So again, for poker players or anyone that wants to join us, we'll be doing it at Coolbet. We'll post all the information on how you get in. But next Tuesday for the next poker tourney, a lot of interest as it continues to grow. And I will say I'm cooking something up with Pat and Jake that I hopefully will be able to announce, which will be an unbelievable carrot for poker players if we can pull it off, Reem. But they've been so much fun. And next Tuesday, the next time we go to the Felt at Coolbet.
Yeah, I got to get at Hammer. Can't have him winning these tournaments and be the reigning champion. It's just another week we can call him the reigning 3 in a row.
It's
it's embarrassing.
Now. If you win 3, it's a dynasty.
I'm embarrassed. I had to have participated in these and keep letting him win. I think he's knocked me out on 2 of those. At least 1 for sure. So, look, I didn't want to anoint him like legit player. I said, he got lucky. Maybe the first one, but you can't 3 in a row. That's really impressive.
Yeah, Trevor Bird. I know, Trevor, you were asking yesterday. And when will registration be open for next Tuesday's WST Poker Night? Probably Monday. But if I get notice that it is open tonight or tomorrow before tomorrow's show, we'll let you know. But for sure on Monday. And again, you can register anywhere right up until the start. There even is late registration. If you think you missed the starting time, you can get in afterwards, at least for the first hour or so. And it's been a heck of a lot of fun. And also just getting some details on some of the big Coolbet contests and poker contests. They've sent some players. I mean, obviously people...
Oh, wait, sorry. Your microphone cut out. Are you talking? Is that me? Is that a me problem or a you problem? Oh, we lost us. What are we looking at the Coolbet lines? Well, we got a number of games in the NHL tonight. And the one that I got my eye on, the Edmonton Oilers in Washington to take on the Washington Capitals. Edmonton, they're an underdog plus 102, and they're coming off a loss to the Buffalo Sabres, shuffling the lines a little bit, putting Jack Roslovic on the top line with Connor McDavid and Matt Savoy. Hustle, let me just get you loaded back in here. Can Edmonton bounce back here against Washington. I mean, they're losing to Buffalo. Just absolutely laughable. Other games tonight, Calgary. Speaking of Buffalo, Calgary in Buffalo. And then Carolina, who we'll be seeing here on Friday in Minnesota. And the final game of the night, I'm actually really excited for this one. Maybe the most exciting team now in the NHL. The Anaheim Ducks, big favorites to the Boston Bruins. Huss, do we have you back here?
Yeah, we're back. Sorry about that. I was all excited talking about the poker tourney, and I knocked my cord out of my mic. And for some reason on this, you can't just plug it back in. You have to go back in. So that's why I kicked out and then came back in. Apologies on that. But yeah, I was just saying, I went to that tourney in Costa Rica last year, and we had a couple guys that won through the WST and Lock Shop tournaments that came in. So anyways, we'll keep you up to date on that as to what they've got cooking up. As far as the odds go tonight, Remo, you kind of went through these games. The Caps are minus 120, Edmonton plus 102, Buffalo's minus 148, Calgary plus 126. Huge game for Buffalo. They were tied with the Leafs at the bottom of the East, but still right in the mix. Leafs won last night. They can get to 20 points with a win. Calgary losing last night to the Blackhawks. How about that? Well, we'll get to this in a minute. Carolina minus 175 in Minnesota. They'll play the Wild tonight and then head to the Peg for Friday night. Of course, we'll see the Wild on Sunday afternoon. And then the Ducks minus 172, Boston plus 145. Quite the night last night for us at Coolbet. I mean, we had the unprecedented Chicago Blackhawks San Jose Sharks parlay 2-gamer that cashed at plus 330. And then I think this is probably the biggest WST Jets exclusives we hit all year. Excuse me, 12-1 or 11-1. It did go down after it was posted, but Lowry, Morrissey points, Connor goal, Jets to win, 11-1 or 12-1, depending on what time you got it. A massive win for the people.
Yeah, big win last night. A lot of goals last night for the Winnipeg Jets hitting that, and I saw Eagle Eyes in our own Discord where we're chatting at all times. He was pumped about a BA split in chat. So the Winnipeg Jets coming through, a number of players coming through. How about all the hat tricks from last night? Jake Ensel, hat trick for Tampa, and the young guys coming through. Connor Bedard, hat trick, and Macklin Celebrini with the overtime winner hat trick. And the conversations about Team Canada keep coming on strong. I think Celebrini, he's in. Connor Bedard, he's knocking down the door. And Huss, you look at the NHL points leaders. Pretty good if you're a former number 1 overall draft pick and your name's either Connor or you got Mac in your name. Number 4, Connor Bedard, 29 points, tied for second. Macklin, Celebrini, he's got 30. Connor McDavid's got 30. And Nathan McKinnon, he's got 33. Pretty impressive stuff. But hey, there's Mark Scheifele right behind, tied for 5th with Nylander and Rantanen, 27 points. So I imagine Mark Scheifele is going to be in that Team Canada conversation. We're getting close to December 31. I just saw this. Do you know who's in the Winter Classic this year? They just announced the jerseys to that today. We had the Europe game. I learned about that. There was a game on Friday, on Tuesday. I had no idea there was a Sunday.
Yeah, it was because we were looking at the lines. Like, wait a second, there's a game that's 1-1 in the first period. What the hell's going on? Oh, the Penguins, and I think it was Penguins and Predators were playing over in
Sweden.
Overseas.
I knew there was a Friday game. I did not even realize. I looked at the NFL scores on. I forgot that. Speaking of that, I forgot that. Was it Jags on Sunday morning in Spain?
Was that who was Indy and Atlanta?
Oh yeah,
Indy,
that was
Atlanta.
The week before. There was some game. It was Miami. I had HN.
Oh, Miami and Washington. Horrible football game.
That was in Spain on that crazy field that goes under the surface. So, I can't keep track of these Europe games, but they did announce the Stadium Series jerseys this year. Florida and the Rangers. It's in Florida. Did you know that? I'm not saying that's Winter Classic.
Now that you mention that, I do recall that there was going to be an outdoor game in Florida. big missed opportunity not to just do the obvious and put the Lightning and the Panthers out there. It could be, it's like the
No one would
equivalent of
go.
when they bring WrestleMania out to the outdoor stadium. Shocked that those teams didn't get crazier last time when they played. Speaking of crazy last night, did you see Patrick Waugh after
Yes.
Mikko Rantanen? Apparently there's not going to be any supplemental discipline, which is going to mean that the Islanders are going to be out for blood. And Waugh essentially said, you're not going to finish the next game when they play. So a public bounty on Mikko Rantanen from a very pissed off Patrick Waugh. And shout out to the Islanders for helping out the Jets a little bit. It was kind of nice last night. We had the Sharks beat the Mammoth. We had the Islanders beat the Dallas Stars. Jets took care of business. So, you know, with it being so difficult to gain ground on anybody, for the Stars to lose in regulation at home against a team like the Islanders, Jets take care of business. You get a little closer to those teams that you're chasing right now in the ultra-competitive Central.
Yeah, Jason Robertson's been really hot. He scored, and they got kind of saved by the officials, as it appeared Dallas had scored in the dying seconds, and David Rittich was very hot. Big save. Dave got bumped into by, I think it was it Robertson, bumped into him and just skated right through the crease over Rittich, and Wyatt Johnson put in the rebound in the dying seconds, and they called it a goal, but eventually overturned it and said it was no goal. Actually, I actually don't know what they originally called it. I was watching it on mute while watching a bunch of other games. And actually, in that San Jose game, Utah had scored a late goal as well that was called no goal on goaltender interference, when it looked like on the Utah broadcast they definitely thought the player was pushed in, and it kind of looked like it as he was trying to spin away from a defender, and that one was called no goal too. I don't know if I was surprised either way, but two plays where the defender ran into a goalie called no goal last night, affecting those games that you mentioned.
I did not see the goal at the end of the Islanders-Dallas game, but I'm going to support the officials. They made the right call. Dallas loses in regulation. Thank you very much. Shout out to the Islanders for getting it done.
Man, the Islanders, they're coming on hot this year. Matthew Schaefer, I mean, this historic season for a 18-year-old defenseman, really delivering success for them. So congratulations to them. They've got the wild card spot now, but as we've talked about all week, there's like everyone. That's your new favorite player.
Speaking of Schaefer, well, he is, because I've got him at 17-1 to win the Calder Trophy. And I'm actually just picking this up right now in the futures over at Coolbet. Oh, man, he's down to minus 230 to win the Calder Trophy.
That's crazy.
So that's a nice one. I'm looking forward to hopefully cashing that one at the end of the season. Hart Trophy, just while we're talking about this, Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid. Go figure. Mac, plus 150. McDavid, plus 175. Eichel, 9-1. The only other player under 10-1. Kaprizov, Makar. Celebrini at 20-1 is actually sort of interesting. If the Sharks make the playoffs and he finishes top 3 in scoring, I may actually put a little marker down on Macklin Celebrini right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Bedard's 30-1. And I think you could say the same thing. If he stays in the top 4 in scoring, I mean, those two players, if they can drag their teams into the playoffs for the first time in forever, they will get a lot of love for MVP. Other props up right now, the awards. Draisaitl's the leader for the Rocket Richard, Nathan McKinnon. Avalanche plus 250 to win the West. Avalanche the favorite to win the Cup at 5-1. Panthers and Hurricanes plus 750. Jets were 25-1. They're back down to 20 right now. And Cale Makar minus 400 to win the Norris Trophy right now. Josh Morrissey, criminal at 60-1. To be honest, I might put something on Morrissey right now at 60-1. Obviously, if Makar plays the entire season, he'll win it. But I'll tell you what, I mean, Josh Morrissey is the only other point-a-game player for defensemen. He's been in the mix before. If something happened to Makar, and I think right now there's a very good likelihood that Josh Morrissey could be a finalist for the Norris Trophy. So maybe that's something we could try and get odds on. Odds to be a finalist, to be top 3 at the end of the year. That's something I think we'd like the Josh Morrissey number on right now. And by the way, if you're wondering about the Central Division, the Avs with their incredible start, minus 250. Dallas is 4-1. Jets 13-1. Utah 18. Minnesota 40. Blackhawks, despite being like right in the mix, plus 225 to win it. It's all up at Coolbet, NHL futures, NFL futures. For tonight, though, you said you like Edmonton in this game, bounce back after their loss to Buffalo?
I feel like I'm gonna get burned, but like it can't keep being this bad. But you look at their lineup, like it's really like not great. Their lineup.
No,
the
I mean,
forwards.
like outside. I mean, like if McDavid and Draisaitl don't do it.
Like
I'm just
like
looking last night.
I was gonna say if I'm Leon Draisaitl, like I'm like get me some line mates here. Who he's playing with, like Podkolzin. Like you guys can't. He's not even playing with guys that can get on a power play. He's playing with Podkolzin and Mangiapane. Seriously, they got Zach Hyman on the third line with Frederick and Henrique. Top line is Savoy, Roslovic, McDavid. Like this isn't a cup team here.
Not right
This is
now.
horrible.
Not right now. That's for sure. The Islanders were the only team to win on the road last night. All other 7 games were won by the home team. So, maybe I'll go with Washington. I definitely like Buffalo against Calgary. Calgary played last night. Buffalo, they got to have this win. They're minus 148. I mean, I don't want to bet on the Wild. I will not be betting on the Wild. Maybe we just do Caps, Sabres, and Ducks tonight. Comes out to plus 386. Jump on that for one. NFL tomorrow, by the way. It's the Bills 6-point road favorites in Houston. Bills minus 278. Texans plus 230. We'll talk more about that game tomorrow. And don't forget, 10 a.m. on Friday, myself, Pat, and Jake with WST winners, our weekly picks against the spread. I've been like all over the place. 4-0, 4-0, 3-1, 0 for 4, 3-1, 0 for 4. Due for a big week coming up. So we'll do that. You can put it in your calendars, reminders, or turn your notifications on YouTube and join us on Friday for that program. It should be good. That's going to do it for us. Let's get this podcast up. Thanks to everyone that dropped by today. Great segment with Murat on his latest. If you missed that, make sure to go back and listen to it. Fun chat on the Canadian teams with Dave McCarthy, John Hodge, Thomas Tipple. Huge thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. We couldn't do it without you. And to all of you popping in. The vibes are good after that big win, and we'll have another day of practice tomorrow as we get closer to Nikolai Ehlers' return to Winnipeg. I'd imagine he'll be in the city tomorrow. Maybe they won't skate, but there'll be a big, big media throng. We'll have Connor down there as well when Nikolai Ehlers meets the media in Winnipeg before Friday night's game against the Winnipeg Jets. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for hanging out and making WST a part of your day, gang. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock live on YouTube and right after the show in your podcast feed here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a good one.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.